Chapter 514. She should have used this method when the nude photos were exposed, but she chose to compromise. It wasn't so easy to deal with the matter now. Besides, Ning Shu didn't intend to help her at all. If she did, she would be busy with Xia Xiaoman's matter and risk being killed by Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman bickered and rolled around together, but decided not to break up. He was speechless. Given Xia Xiaoman's character, she would definitely do such a thing. Brother Wenlang, please help me. Xia Xiaoman begged Ning Shu. I must leave Chu Xiaoran. He doesn't love me at all. He has been toying with me. I'm really tired. Ning Shu was speechless. Get lost. She had endured it for so many years and was extremely determined now. But she still went back after Chu Xiaoran hooked her. Xia Xiaoman was crazy. Ning Shu said calmly. I can't help you with this matter. You need evidence to file a lawsuit. Besides, what crime are you going to sue Chu Xiaoran for? Xia Xiaoman was at a loss for words. Ning Shu said, if you're really determined to leave Chu Xiaoran, just leave and don't care about anything else. Don't care about the nude photos and disappear from Chu Xiaoran's side. No, Xia Xiaoman retorted. But there are photos and videos. Chu Xiaoran will release them as soon as I leave. Brother Wenlang, I'm scared. Also, I can't let my parents be mocked because of me. See, Xia Xiaoman subconsciously didn't want to leave Chu Xiaoran, which was why she found all kinds of reasons. Even if she vowed to break up with him now, it was most likely because Chu Xiaoran had done something to upset her. She would naturally forgive him after some time and be lovey-dovey with him again. Xia Xiaoman would forgive Chu Xiaoran easily, as long as Chu Xiaoran was more attentive and did one or two romantic things. Xia Xiaoman's attitude would soften. Xia Xiaoman's words couldn't be trusted, especially when she said that she wanted to leave Chu Xiaoran. Ning Shu did not believe that Chu Xiaoran would release the photos and videos. With Chu Xiaoran's chauvinism, would he allow others to observe his woman's body? Especially the video of them having sex. It would be strange if it was released. Only Xia Xiaoman would believe it. Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman subconsciously used these things to bind each other. Ning Shu only wanted to say that she was sick in the head. How could this be called love? She was hurt all over. Yet she was still talking about how difficult it was to obtain happiness. She was simply drunk. Then Brother Wenlang, I'll leave first. Xia Xiaoman looked depressed. She suddenly thought of something and said to Ning Shu, Brother Wenlang, let me treat you to dinner to welcome you. Ning Shu waved his hand. Just as he was about to speak, he saw a group of people with sticks and knives walking into the law firm aggressively from the corner of his eye. Without saying a word, they slashed and smashed everything. The people in the law firm were shocked. Xia Xiaoman was so scared that her face turned pale. She hid behind Ning Shu and grabbed Ning Shu's clothes tightly. Ning Shu sneered, took off his suit jacket and walked towards the gangsters. Xia Xiaoman pulled Ning Shu, shook her head and said, Brother Wenlang, don't go over. It's too dangerous. Ning Shu shook off Xia Xiaoman and walked over to a gangster who was smashing things. He kicked him, snatched the stick from his hand, and hit him in the leg. The gangster screamed in pain and fell to the ground, unable to get up. Ning Shu walked towards the other gangsters with the stick. When the gangsters saw Ning Shu's murderous aura, their faces became weak, and they wanted to run away. Ning Shu closed the door directly, smashed things and wanted to run away. The gangsters who looked strong, but were weak in reality were not Ning Shu's opponents. They were all beaten to the ground by Ning Shu. Ning Shu stepped on the gangster leader's chest and said, How dare you come to the law firm to make trouble and provoke people who play with the law? Believe it or not, I will put you in jail. Let me go, or our boss will show you. The gangster bluffed and shouted at Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled indifferently. He raised the stick and hit the gangster's arm. When the stick hit the gangster's arm, a clear sound of bone cracking could be heard. The gangster let out an inhuman cry. Ning Shu threw the stick, clapped his hands and said to the somewhat sluggish staff, Call the police. Today, no one who smashed things can escape. Boss, you're too domineering. The little sister who sorted out the documents immediately called the police. After a while, a police car came and took these gangsters away. Ning Shu arranged a lawyer to deal with this matter. He said to the lawyer, The more serious the better. The lawyer nodded, indicating that he understood. Ning Shu felt a little hot. He unbuttoned his shirt. Seeing Xia Xiaoman staring at him, he said, "Aren't you going to leave?" "Oh." Xia Xiaoman recovered and said, "Brother Wenlang, I didn't know you could fight so well." "One person beat all the gangsters down," Ning Shu casually said. "I practiced abroad." Xia Xiaoman saw that the law firm was in a mess. It wasn't good for her to stay here, so she could only leave. Ning Shu narrowed her eyes slightly. It was too obvious who was the culprit today. Xia Xiaoman had just arrived, and something like this had happened. The naive Xia Xiaoman probably didn't know that she was being monitored. Chu Xiaoran was warning her. Ning Shu smiled. Did Chu Xiaoran really think that he was so great that he could do whatever he wanted? After this incident, the law firm was relatively peaceful. There were no other gangsters who came to make trouble. The previous gangsters were charged with all the crimes that could be added, such as breaking into private property, maliciously hurting others, robbery. Anyway, these people would not be able to make a comeback. If they were greedy and came to make trouble, they had to think about the consequences. Su Wenlang died in the hands of gangsters. Sometimes, these gangsters were a very good tool. Su Wenlang's death had no effect on Chu Xiaoran at all. Chu Xiaoran was still the CEO, and was still high and mighty. Towards Xia Xiaoman, Ning Shu only had disgust in her heart. This woman's stupidity was simply unbearable. Her naivety was unbearable. Moreover, Xia Xiaoman only had naivety and no sweetness. She always had a bitter face. Ning Shu went to the city government. Under the government's invitation, he became a lawyer. The law firm was actually considered to be the government's. T-City needed this to establish a good image. Of course, Ning Shu was also the boss of the law firm. Ning Shu had wanted to get on this line since a long time ago. Chu Xiaoran treated her like this, so she had to return the favor. Previously, she thought that her strength was not very strong, and the chances of winning against Chu Xiaoran were not high. Now that Chu Xiaoran was bullying her, Ning Shu felt that there was no need for her to hide. Chapter 515. With the support of the government, Ning Shu's law firm gradually got on the right track, and slowly gained a foothold in T-City. This was the difference between working alone and having support. Ning Shu was supported by more than one person. Ning Shu had fought many cases for free, but the law firm was still profitable. Ning Shu was now the person the government pushed out to deal with the people who needed legal aid. As long as the bottom line was not crossed, Ning Shu's law firm would slowly start to grow. Ning Shu could now attend some high-end banquets, which meant that her social status was slowly rising. Ning Shu felt that even if the final mission was not completed, he had reversed a beautiful life for the original owner of this body, and was now on equal footing with Chu Xiaoran. Ning Shu felt very carefree. During the banquets, Ning Shu would occasionally meet Chu Xiaoran. When Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Shu, he was a little strange. "You're quite good at fishing for fame. You've even become a philanthropist." Ning Shu had a smile on his face. "Even if I'm fishing for fame, I've done it." Chu Xiaoran had a strong temperament. When his eyes met with Ning Shu's, a cruel smile appeared between his eyebrows. "You're really an interesting person." "You're interesting too." Ning Shu held a red wine glass and clinked it with Chu Xiaoran's. "Here's to you." Chu Xiaoran's pupils constricted. He raised his head and drank the red wine. Looking down at the wine glass in his hand, Chu Xiaoran was a little afraid of this man. He had only symbolically made a move, but he was already warned. What kind of background did this man have? Chu Xiaoran had a smile on his face. Ning Shu said, "We may work together in the future." "There will definitely be a chance to work together." Ning Shu nodded and said affirmatively. Chu Xiaoran glanced at Ning Shu and turned to leave. Ning Shu looked at Chu Xiaoran's back with an indifferent expression. Chu Xiaoran and Ning Shu both understood that there was a deep hatred between them. Although they appeared polite on the surface, they were actually thinking about how to destroy each other and make it impossible for them to recover. Chu Xiaoran relied on his power to take advantage of the situation. Now that he no longer has the capital to take advantage of the situation, let's see what he can do. Chu Xiaoran was the one who made things difficult for Ning Shu when the hooligans smashed up his shop previously. Ning Shu also made things difficult for Chu Xiaoran. This time, Ning Shu acted as the lawyer for the tax bureau and followed the tax inspector to Chu Sharon's company to check the accounts. Chu Sharon's company was very big, and it was one of the largest in T-City. In order to show how awesome Chu Shaoran was, he even said that he dominated T-City's economy. He even said that the economy of T-City would be shaken by a stomp of his feet. No one in T-City was a match for Chu Shaoran. All of them prostrated themselves before Chu Shaoran and the business tycoons, wagging their tails and begging for mercy. Chu Shaoran gave them food to eat, but these businessmen seemed to only have food to eat. Awesome to the heavens. In response, Ning Shu simply smiled faintly. Ning Shu looked up at the towering skyscraper and rubbed his neck. How much did this building cost? Ning Shu followed the tax inspector into Chu Shaoran's company. Chu Shaoran did not appear, and instead he got his secretary to receive the tax inspector. For a big company like Chu Shaoran's, there were many people in the finance department who did a good job with the accounts. Even if there were any loopholes, they would deliberately let the tax inspector find out. After paying a fine, everyone would just brush it aside. Ning Shu sat at the side and watched as these people checked the accounts. This time, they checked very carefully, and their attitude was very different from before. They were very serious. If there was anything wrong, the auditors would get to the bottom of it. Chu Shaoran's secretary could tell that something was amiss. The Chu family's company had always paid a lot of taxes. It was just a routine audit, and these small loopholes were just for the auditors to gain some benefits. However, now that they were so serious, Chu Shaoran's secretary immediately informed Chu Shaoran to let him handle this matter. When Chu Shaoran arrived, he saw Ning Shu leisurely sitting on the sofa and drinking coffee. Chu Shaoran glanced at the tax inspectors and walked over to sit opposite Ning Shu. He raised his eyebrows and said, "Lawyer Su, you're not only a lawyer, but also an accountant? It's not easy to survive in this society. One more skill means one more mouthful of food," Ning Shu said as he took a sip of coffee. Chu Shaoran narrowed his eyes and looked at Ning Shu. The corners of his mouth curled up slightly, and he looked casual. It was as if he was smiling, but no one could tell what he was thinking. However, Ning Shu knew that this bastard must be thinking of ways to kill a flea like her. Ning Shu also suspected that Chu Shaoran was involved in the underworld and had a group of underlings who challenged the country's laws. These seemed to be trivial matters, but they might be the last straw that broke the camel's back. In the end, the tax inspector found a loophole, but the people in the finance department couldn't do anything about it. Ning Shu immediately said, "President Chu, please explain yourself. Otherwise, you'll be accused of tax evasion." Chu Shaoran looked at Ning Shu, who didn't hide the gloating in his voice. A murderous look flashed in Chu Shaoran's eyes, and he said to the tax inspector indifferently, "I'll explain this matter clearly to the tax bureau. You can leave now." Ning Shu took out an indictment and said, "President Chu, you'd better explain yourself. Otherwise, you'll be sued for tax evasion. It won't be good for you to go to court." Chu Shaoran sneered. "You've prepared in advance and are targeting me? Look at what you're saying. I'm a lawyer. In this line of work, I have to be thorough," Ning Shu said with a smile. Chu Shaoran stared at Ning Shu and suddenly smiled. This smile was cold and murderous. Ning Shu was hit in the face. "You're not bad. I misjudged you previously. Thank you for the compliment. You're not bad yourself," Ning Shu said without changing his expression. In the end, Chu Shaoran was fined 5 times the amount of money he couldn't explain. Although it was nothing to Chu Shaoran, he felt that he had been offended. In fact, some of the accounts were unclear. He didn't care about it in the past, but when he did, it was too much for Chu Shaoran. Chu Shaoran's company monopolized many industries, and many companies were just picking up the leftovers behind Chu Shaoran. Therefore, Chu Shaoran had a lot of power in T-City. Ning Shu put away the indictment and planned to leave. Chu Shaoran stopped Ning Shu. "Lawyer Su, it's my girlfriend's birthday this weekend. Xiaoman is holding a banquet. You should come too." Haha, he even used Xia Xiaoman to attack him. To Ning Shu, Xia Xiaoman was just a stranger that he hated. Even if Xia Xiaoman died in front of him, Ning Shu wouldn't even blink. He wanted to use Xia Xiaoman to provoke him. Ning Shu thought, I'm a cute girl at heart and don't like women. Ning Shu said faintly. I have a date this weekend. I won't be going to your girlfriend's banquet. Chu Shaoran said. I heard that you and Xiaoman have known each other for many years. You should go to her birthday party. Xiaoman and I both welcome you. Ning Shu pulled out his memory. In Su Wenlong's memory, Xia Xiaoman's birthday was more than a month away. Her birthday was celebrated so soon? It was probably Chu Xiaoran's impromptu decision to poke at her heart. Chapter 516. He probably invited her to the banquet to watch the two of them flaunt their love for each other. Ning Shu's expression remained unchanged. I've been a little busy recently. I still have to go to various companies to check their accounts. I'm not as lucky as you, CEO Chu, who can count money while lying down. CEO Chu, do the accounts properly next time. Also, you'll really be sued next time. Ning Shu turned around and left after saying that. What banquet? It was just Chu Shaoran trying to show off to her. Ning Shu would rather fight a free lawsuit than waste her time on such a thing. She didn't want to know what was going on between Chu Shaoran and Xia Xiaoman. She didn't care, didn't want to know, and didn't want to know. Chu Shaoran's face was gloomy and he frowned. As a businessman, his sharp senses told him that checking the accounts was a signal. He felt that someone was going to take action against him. However, Chu Shaoran was still confident in his heart. In T-City, ordinary people couldn't shake him. Even the higher-ups didn't dare to touch him, because there might be a riot in T-City's economy. Especially since he monopolized many industries, it would cause chaos in T-City in a short period of time. Chu Shaoran was increasingly disgusted with this man called Su Wenlang. It was not only because of Xia Xiaoman's matter, but also because this man had a strong aura and seemed to have some background. Chu Shaoran frowned. He had to come up with a plan. Recently, Ning Shu felt that someone was following her, as if she was being watched. Every time she tried to find this feeling, her eyes would disappear. Ning Shu felt that it should be Chu Xiaoran's men. Are they trying to kill me? Ning Shu felt that Chu Xiaoran was sometimes overconfident. If he was an ordinary person, he would be killed just like in the plot. Even if it was just a ripple, it would be over soon. However, her social status was different now. It was a kind of image that the government pushed in front of others. Especially since she still had to run the law firm, her death would have a certain amount of influence. Chu Shaoran had been in T-City for too long, and had forgotten who the land under his feet belonged to. Ning Shu walked into a small alley, and waited for the person following her to appear. The person following Ning Shu was a man. This man had a valiant aura, and judging from the way he walked, he seemed to be a veteran. Why are you following me? Ning Shu asked. The man did not speak. He held a sharp blade between his fingers. It looked like he was going to cut Ning Shu's throat. Ning Shu narrowed his eyes, and took the initiative to raise his fist and punch the man. This man was probably a special forces soldier, and was proficient in martial arts. He seemed to look down on Ning Shu, and directly reached out to grab Ning Shu's fist. However, Ning Shu's fist knocked him back 2 steps. Only then did the man's expression become serious. He moved his neck, making cracking sounds, and said to Ning Shu, "You have some skills." Ning Shu narrowed his eyes and took the lead. He clenched his fist and punched the man's head. But in the other hand, he took out a spray bottle and sprayed it at the man's eyes. The man's eyes were burning because of the sudden spray. It was so hot that his eyes seemed to be going blind. The man groaned and bent over to cover his eyes. Ning Shu clenched his fist and beat the man. Because of his eyes, although the man was on guard against Ning Shu, he was still beaten unconscious by Ning Shu. Ning Shu kicked the unconscious man and kissed the bottle. The pepper spray was really a good thing. It could achieve an unexpected effect. No one would expect that a man like Ning Shu would carry pepper spray. Ning Shu thought about it and was angry. This man was very ruthless and wanted to kill him. Ning Shu kicked the man's calf. Then he heard the sound of bones breaking. Ning Shu stomped hard twice. The man sat up in pain and wailed. He rolled his eyes and fainted again. His calf was swollen. In fact, Ning Shu wanted to kill this man. But after all, this was a society ruled by law. Even if it was dirty and private, as a lawyer, Su Wenlong's hands must be clean. It was the most basic principle and persistence. Su Wenlang probably didn't want to come back. and become the person who had to bear a life in his hands. Ning Shu called Chu Xiaoran and asked him to come and take his man away. Otherwise, he would be sent to the police. Ning Shu didn't want to call the police because there would always be someone to protect a veteran like him. Ning Shu would rather give Chu Xiaoran a warning. Chu Xiaoran had rushed over personally with a few bodyguards by his side. Chu Xiaoran looked at the unconscious man on the ground and then looked at Ning Shu. The corners of his mouth curled up. I underestimated you. Chu Xiaoran, keep an eye on your dog. If there's a next time, he won't be here, but in prison, Ning Shu said indifferently. Chu Xiaoran waved to the bodyguards behind him, and they carried the unconscious man away. Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Shu and said, Su Wenlang, I really admire you more and more. If it weren't for Xia Xiaoman, I really hope that you can work for me. You also know that it's impossible. How stupid would she be to work with Chu Xiaoran? Her purpose was to take revenge and make Chu Xiaoran, who had taken advantage of her, have no hope of struggling. You're a tolerant person. You even tolerated Xia Xiaoman's matter and disappeared for a period of time. You even hooked up with someone from the top. Chu Xiaoran narrowed his eyes, hiding the strong murderous intent in his eyes. Ning Shu smiled. He could hook up with someone from the top because she was of value to him. What she did just scratched his itch. However, Chu Xiaoran's existence was like a fishbone stuck in his throat. Ning Shu was just borrowing the wind. Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Shu condescendingly and turned to leave. Chu Xiaoran was too arrogant. If God wanted to destroy people, he would first make them go crazy. Ning Shu leaned against a big tree and enjoyed the shade. What made Ning Shu more amused was that Chu Xiaoran's company's tax evasion was widely reported by the media, causing the stock price of Chu Xiaoran's company to plummet. The morning, afternoon, and evening news came one after another. There were also financial newspapers. Chu Xiaoran immediately blocked the news and no longer reported this matter. Chu Xiaoran's power in T-City was not to be underestimated. However, Ning Shu knew that the higher he climbed, the more painful it would be to fall. During this period, Xia Xiaoman came to look for Ning Shu again. But this time, she did not say that she wanted to break up with Chu Xiaoran. Instead, she came to be the peacemaker between Chu Xiaoran and Ning Shu. Brother Wenlang, let this matter pass. It won't do you any good to fight with Chu Xiaoran like this. Chu Xiaoran is ruthless and powerful. Brother Wenlang, if you go against her like this, it will affect your future and career, Xia Xiaoman said to Ning Shu. Her face was full of worry for Ning Shu. Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu really did not know what to say. What position did Xia Xiaoman have to make this request? Although Xia Xiaoman was speaking from her position, she was biased towards Chu Xiaoran. She was simply speechless. Not long ago, she came crying and said that she wanted to break up with him. Now, she was speaking up for Chu Xiaoran. Hence, he could not believe a single word that Xia Xiaoman said. If he did, it would be a tragedy. Chapter 517. Ning Shu really didn't know what Xia Xiaoman was thinking. She kept repeating the same thing over and over again. He couldn't understand what she was thinking at all. Wasn't this fun? In the storyline, Su Wenlang was ruined. Yesterday she was very sad. Today, she said that she couldn't let go of Chu Xiaoran. Ning Shu didn't know where Xia Xiaoman's bottom line and principles were. She was hurt by Chu Xiaoran partly because she gave in without principles. Ning Shu felt that it was quite sad for a person to live like this. However, Xia Xiaoman felt that this was a pain that had to be experienced in love in order to obtain happiness. Su Wenlang was so good to her. But he didn't want that kind of warm and gentle relationship. Why did he have to be so heart-wrenching and painful in love? Brother Wenlang, why are you looking at me like this? Xia Xiaoman saw Ning Shu looking at her like this. His sharp and unfamiliar eyes made Xia Xiaoman feel uneasy, and she moved her body uncomfortably. Ning Shu casually retracted his gaze and said indifferently, "Did Chu Xiaoran ask you to say this?" Xia Xiaoman hurriedly waved her hand and said, "No, Chu Xiaoran didn't say this to me. I came here on my own accord. Brother Wenlang, I don't want you to fight to the death like this. I'll be sad if any of you get hurt." Ning Shu didn't say anything, and just looked at Xia Xiaoman. He and Chu Xiaoran couldn't coexist. In the storyline, Su Wenlang died, but this time, it was hard to say. Xia Xiaoman didn't have the right to say these words in front of him. She betrayed Su Wenlang, and even asked him to let go of everything and coexist peacefully with Chu Xiaoran. Scram as far as possible. Just looking at her made him feel suffocated. Xia Xiaoman, who was a selfish person in the name of doing good for others, especially when she was in love, was very annoying. Ning Shu had never hated a woman so much. He couldn't say that Xia Xiaoman was detestable. She was just a powerless woman, who chose to resign to her fate in the face of harm. However, her actions would hurt those who truly cared about her, and bring disaster to others. Yet she was very tolerant of those who hurt her. If he wasn't sick, then what was? If Ning Shu encountered such a situation, he would definitely fight to the death, instead of choosing to deal with this matter in such a way. More importantly, using threats and promises to make people compromise was a kind of harm in itself. Xia Xiaoman, has anyone ever told you that you are very cheap? Ning Shu was really annoyed with Xia Xiaoman appearing in front of him all the time, and overdrawing her relationship with Su Wenlang. Does Chu Xiaoran know that you're here? Brother Wenlang, you? Xia Xiaoman was stunned. She couldn't believe that these words came out of the mouth of the gentle brother Wenlang. Xia Xiaoman's face turned purple. Anger and embarrassment filled her face. Her voice trembled. Brother Wenlang, do you know what you're talking about? Of course I know. I'm saying, you are very cheap. Ning Shu said word by word. Xia Xiaoman was so angry that her chest heaved up and down. She said angrily, Brother Wenlang, how can you say that about me? Brother Wenlang, you've changed. You wouldn't say such vulgar words in the past. I'm here to tell you these with good intentions. Why are you suddenly scolding me? Xia Xiaoman clearly hadn't recovered from the fact that Brother Wenlang scolded her. Her expression was full of anger and embarrassment. She sat opposite him, and seemed to be sulking that she didn't want to talk to Ning Shu. Ning Shu smiled faintly. You're angry just because of this? If it were Chu Xiaoran now, would you be so angry? No matter how unbearable and vicious Chu Xiaoran's words were, you would still tolerate it. You're so angry just because I said something. Xia Xiaoman, you're just relying on my feelings for you over the years. Also, you betrayed me and appeared in front of me so righteously. Don't you feel embarrassed? Or do you think that I can only have you in this life, and that I'll be waiting for you even if you turn around? Ning Shu didn't hold back at all. You're really thick-skinned. Xia Xiaoman's face was pale. She stared blankly at Ning Shu, and bit her lips tightly. You're not Brother Wenlang. Brother Wenlang wouldn't say such things. Ning Shu was speechless. Scram, don't come looking for me in the future. If you still have a little bit of shame, don't come looking for me. Ning Shu felt that it was useless to say anything to Xia Xiaoman. In her heart, Su Wenlang was the warm and comforting man who could understand her difficulties and helplessness. Now that Ning Shu was acting a little worse, Xia Xiaoman, who was used to Su Wenlong's silent sacrifice, suddenly felt a sense of betrayal. Xia Xiaoman stood up, her face pale. She took a deep breath and said, Brother Wenlang, I know you hate me in your heart, but everything I did was to solve the problem. My original intention was not to hinder Brother Wenlong's career. It's very dangerous to go against Chu Xiaoran. I don't dare to do anything, but I don't want Brother Wenlang to get hurt. Ning Shu didn't even raise his head. Are you done? If you're done, please leave. Xia Xiaoman bit her lips and turned to leave. When she reached the door, she glanced at Ning Shu. Seeing that he didn't raise his head, Xia Xiaoman frowned and left. If you have any shame, don't come again next time. In fact, Xia Xiaoman didn't know that every time she came to look for Su Wenlang, she was increasing the danger for him. Would Chu Xiaoran be willing to see his woman find another man for no reason? Moreover, this man was Xia Xiaoman's old lover. He was definitely going to rekindle their old flame. Just in case, the best way was to make Su Wenlang disappear. Xia Xiaoman couldn't think of these and wouldn't think of these things. Sometimes, she even used Su Wenlang to provoke Chu Xiaoran. It was really frustrating to meet such a deceitful person. Chu Xiaoran raised a group of people who were probably specially used to deal with disobedient people. Ning Shu thought about it, and also recruited a few security guards, who were all retired soldiers, to protect the people in the law firm. Chu Xiaoran was the kind of person who was high above, and ignored the law. It was as if there was nothing he couldn't do. Everywhere he went, there would be people following him, as if he was an emperor. Ning Shu could only laugh at this. In fact, Chu Xiaoran was just a businessman. Why did he act as if he was the most powerful person in the world? He was so arrogant. He was so rich that he could rival a country, but he could only be slaughtered when he was fat. Chu Xiaoran wasn't strong enough to break away from the control of the land under his feet. Ning Shu could only take advantage of the situation. Ning Shu fought a lot of free cases, all of which were to help those who had no way to appeal. This made the reputation of the law firm rise. The newspapers reported that she was a philanthropist. The newspapers wouldn't report on her in an overwhelming manner. They would only appear occasionally in a slow and silent way. Overly exaggerated reports would only cause backlash and doubts. Ning Shu knew that this was the support of her supporters. And what Ning Shu had to do was to work hard and do what he should do. Chapter 518. Ning Shu was clear about his position. He was a chess piece that could be used to deal with Chu Xiaoran. Moreover, Ning Shu was willing to be this chess piece. Chu Xiaoran's actions had already crossed the bottom line of the authorities. Was it his job as a businessman to control the economy? Other than being busy with the matters of the law firm, Ning Shu would also take time to go home and visit his parents. However, every time Mother Su saw Ning Shu, the first thing she would do was to ask him to go on a blind date. Mother Su felt that her son was not young anymore. At most, he was already in his 30s. Many people his age had already become fathers. Moreover, her son's career was now considered successful, and he could marry a woman who was better than Xia Xiaoran. Although Mother Su did not say it out loud, she still had some resentment towards Xia Xiaoran, especially when she saw that Ning Shu did not have a single woman by his side, not even a romantic partner. Mother Su felt that her son still had Xia Xiaoran in his heart. Ning Shu was sweating profusely. She wanted him to marry a woman? What a joke! He told Mother Su that he was trying hard to find a girlfriend, and that he would bring her back once he found one. Then, he ran away as if he was escaping. Even so, he could not resist Mother Su's enthusiasm. Every 2 to 3 days, she would ask Ning Shu to go home to see a woman, saying that she was virtuous and beautiful. She wanted Ning Shu to come home to take a look. Ning Shu was about to break down. It was better to wait for Su Wenlang to come back and resolve this matter himself. Ning Shu focused on his work. Xia Xiaoran did not look for him for a long time, probably because Ning Shu was too rude the last time. She did not call him either. Sometimes, when Xia Xiaoran attended banquets as Chu Xiaoran's female companion, she would look indifferent when she saw Ning Shu. She did not speak to Ning Shu, nor did she greet him. Even if she met his eyes, Xia Xiaoran would immediately look away. TSK, TSK, TSK. Xia Xiaoran's behavior was still sulking. She felt that this would make her feel uncomfortable and make her compromise. People would always love themselves, tolerate their own people, and be self-righteous. Chu Xiaoran gave Xia Xiaoman the cold shoulder because he felt that Xia Xiaoman couldn't leave him and couldn't leave him. So Xia Xiaoman compromised. Xia Xiaoman gave Ning Shu the cold shoulder because she felt that Ning Shu had her in his heart and should compromise for her. Ning Shu was a little surprised. Could it be that Xia Xiaoman wanted her to apologize? Ning Shu talked to the others and didn't even look at Xia Xiaoman. Even if Xia Xiaoman died in front of Ning Shu's heart wouldn't waver. Chu Xiaoran squinted at Ning Shu and pulled Xia Xiaoman over to Ning Shu's side. Xia Xiaoman was unwilling to go over and said, "I'm not going." Chu Xiaoran raised his eyebrows and tolerated Xia Xiaoman's willfulness. Obviously, Xia Xiaoman's action of avoiding Su Wenlang pleased Chu Xiaoran and made Xia Xiaoman wait for him there. "Lawyer Su." Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Shu and said, "You're the fastest person I've ever seen. You used to be just a small lawyer, but now you've become a government charity lawyer. You're quite good at currying favor. You appear in front of the public as a philanthropist, but I don't know what you're like behind the scenes." Ning Shu didn't take Chu Xiaoran's mockery to heart at all. Chu Xiaoran wanted to say that he had groveled to get to where he was today. Actually, others don't care about what I'm like behind the scenes. Those who come to me for a lawsuit won't care, because I can help them win the lawsuit. Those who need legal aid won't care about what I'm like behind the scenes, because I can get justice for them, without having to pay a huge price. Ning Shu said calmly. I'm just doing what I should do. What's there to feel guilty about? What's there to feel uneasy about? Chu Sharon's pupils constricted. Just as he was about to speak, the crisp sound of a glass falling to the ground could be heard, causing a commotion. Chu Shaoran and Ning Shu turned around and saw that Xia Sharon's gown was covered in red wine. The wine was spreading down the white gown, and a beautiful woman was standing opposite Xia Shaoran. At this moment, she was apologizing to Xia Shaoran very insincerely. Ning Shu took a glance and looked away. It's these jealous fights again. How boring. Chu Shaoran walked over and took Xia Shaoran downstairs to change her clothes. When Ning Shu saw this scene, he felt that Xia Shaoran was like an overaged baby who would only be at a loss when faced with trouble and wait for the prince to save her. It was no wonder that she refused to leave Chu Shaoran. She had developed a dependence on Chu Shaoran. Chu Shaoran was as cruel as a demon to her one moment, but he was gentle and romantic to her the next. Xia Shaoran couldn't leave him no matter what. Xia Shaoran used photos and videos to cover up this mentality, saying that she couldn't leave Chu Shaoran because of the photos. Anyway, there were a lot of reasons. In short, Xia Shaoran fell in love with the man who raped and coerced her. Ning Shu still followed the tax inspector to Chu Shaoran's company to check the accounts. Now the audit was more frequent, about once every 2 months. This situation was relatively unusual. The audit usually started at the end of the year, and the most frequent audit was once every 6 months. When Chu Shaoran saw Ning Shu, his face was cold and cruel as he said, Lawyer Su, you're really going against me. You're checking every 2 months. Do you still want my company to do business? Ning Shu said with a smile. Not only your company, but other companies will also be investigated. This is the order of the higher-ups. They want to investigate the tax evasion in the past few years. Chu Shaoran pursed his lips tightly. Ning Shu took a sip of the coffee that his secretary had brought over and waited leisurely at the side for the audit. Chu Shaoran looked at Ning Shu and said indifferently, Lawyer Su, are you sure you want to go against me? Haven't we always been enemies? Ning Shu said calmly. What are you talking about, President Chu? I don't understand. Chu Shaoran sneered. Some things are not as simple as you think. Or do you think a small lawyer like you can deal with me? Ning Shu smiled. Chu Shaoran could say such words, which meant that he was feeling guilty. Instead of saying it to her, he might as well say it to someone else. Ning Shu immediately took out a document, because there were a few parts of the account that he did not understand. Chu Shaoran glanced at Ning Shu coldly, took out a check, and said coldly to the tax inspectors, How much this time? Chu Shaoran was a big shot in T-City. The tax inspectors were frightened by Chu Shaoran's gloomy expression, and their hearts trembled a little. If Chu Shaoran wanted to pursue the matter, they would not be able to bear the consequences. Ning Shu took over and said, 3 times. If you don't pay the amount, you'll be fined 3 times the amount. Chu Shaoran's pupils constricted, and he pursed his lips tightly. In the end, he wrote down the amount on a check. He scratched the paper hard with the pen, and some parts of the paper were scratched. Ning Shu accepted the check graciously, then took out a document and said, President Chu, this is the product price opinion. The prices of some products in your company need to be adjusted. Chapter 519. Chu Shaoran's company had monopolized many industries, and the prices of the monopolized products were basically set by Chu Shaoran. The products of Chu Shaoran's company were more expensive, so the higher-ups had to adjust the prices. CEO Chu, I hope that the next time I come, your prices will have been adjusted. Ning Shu ignored Chu Shaoran's sullen expression and said, CEO Chu, please adjust the prices according to the opinions. Chu Shaoran calmly took the opinions and glanced at them before throwing them aside casually. He didn't seem to care about the opinions at all. Ning Shu smiled faintly and didn't say anything. Chu Shaoran was free to do whatever he wanted. Chu Shaoran's tax evasion was widely reported by the media. Other than Chu Shaoran's company, there were other small companies, but they were all unknown, and no one cared about them at all. More people cared about Chu Shaoran's company. After all, It was such a large listed company. Besides, the report also requested Chu Xiaoran to adjust the prices of his products, especially the daily necessities. Chu Xiaoran tried to stop the news from being broadcasted, but it didn't seem to work. The media dragged on for a few days before finally stopping. Chu Xiaoran looked at the news on the LCD screen on the wall with a gloomy expression. He directly smashed the TV with the remote control, causing cracks to appear on the screen. Xia Xiaoman, who was at the side, was shocked and asked, "Chu Xiaoran, what's wrong with you?" Chu Xiaoran turned his head and looked at Xia Xiaoman. The malice and hostility in his eyes had yet to dissipate. When he looked at Xia Xiaoman, he seemed unusually evil and bewitching. Xia Xiaoman was frightened by his gaze. It's all because of your old lover. He thinks that he has a backer and wants to compete with me." Chu Xiaoran's eyebrows were full of contempt. "He's taking revenge on me." Xia Xiaoman bit her lip. How should I explain this matter? She saw Chu Xiaoran's eyes darting up and down as he smiled sarcastically. Xia Xiaoman felt very tired. She felt that Chu Xiaoran was blaming her, but she was innocent. Chu Xiaoran had taken a photo of her when she was unaware of anything. Chu Xiaoran used the photo to threaten her. Because of this, she left Brother Wenlang, who treated her well, and endured it for various reasons. Chu Xiaoran blamed her, Brother Wenlang blamed her, and her parents said that she was an embarrassment. She had lost her virginity, and had no dignity to stay by Chu Xiaoran's side. Xia Xiaoman turned around weakly, and went upstairs. Chu Xiaoran stood up and walked over to Xia Xiaoman. He looked down at her and said in a sharp and cruel tone, "Why? Do you want to return to your ex-boyfriend's side now that he has made a comeback?" Xia Xiaoman's expression became even more pained. Her voice trembled as she said, "You clearly know that this is impossible. Why are you still saying such things?" "Chu Xiaoran, can you stop hurting me?" Chu Xiaoran pursed his lips and hugged Xia Xiaoman. He moved closer to Xia Xiaoman's ear and said sinisterly, "If I find out that you and Su Wenlang are still together, I'll kill Su Wenlang. Su Wenlang died because of you." Xia Xiaoman shivered and looked up at Chu Xiaoran in a daze. She said, "Chu Xiaoran, why are you always so despicable? Since when did I want to stay together with Brother Wenlang?" "Brother Wenlang? You're calling him so intimately," Chu Xiaoran said coldly, and bent down to pick Xia Xiaoman up. Xia Xiaoman was so shocked that she hit Chu Xiaoran in a panic. "Chu Xiaoran, you beast. I didn't satisfy you, so I made you think about other men. I let you know who your man is, the man who owns you," Chu Xiaoran said coldly. Xia Xiaoman's face was so red that it was unbearable to look at. Chu Xiaoran looked at the shy Xia Xiaoman, and a trace of tenderness flashed across his eyes. Ning Shu had been paying attention to Chu Xiaoran's movements. However, Chu Xiaoran did not take any action since the last time he gave the price adjustment opinion. He also did not see Chu Xiaoran issuing any instructions to adjust the price of his products. Ning Shu was a little stunned for a moment. Does Chu Xiaoran really not care? Or does he have a backup plan? Ning Shu gave Chu Xiaoran a call and asked him to hurry up and adjust the price. Chu Xiaoran directly blacklisted Ning Shu, and Ning Shu could not get through to him at all. Ning Shu was not angry at all about this. He just wanted to see who could outcompete the other. Ning Shu was not in a hurry, since Chu Xiaoran did not take any action. Anyway, the pressure was concentrated on Chu Xiaoran. No matter what Chu Xiaoran did, his arrogance would be affected. If the price was lowered, it would definitely harm Chu Xiaoran's interests. If he did not do so, it would be a provocation to the authorities of T-City. Chu Xiaoran was now a fat pig, and it seemed that he was going to climb over the pigsty soon. What else could he do other than slaughter him? Not long after, Chu Xiaoran held a press conference. During the press conference, Chu Xiaoran directly said that some products would no longer be produced because the cost was too high. However, the price had to be adjusted, and the price was too low after the adjustment. Hence, they could only stop production. Chu Xiaoran's release of the bomb caused panic among the people, because Chu Xiaoran had monopolized many industries. If the production was stopped, some necessities would be gone. It caused a frenzy among the people, and the entire economy of T-City was in turmoil. As the number of products decreased, the atmosphere became increasingly tense, and there were even many violent incidents. Ning Shu looked at the chaotic tea city and really admired Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran's behavior was a provocation to the authorities. If you want to adjust the price of my products, I'll make tea city chaotic. What gave Chu Xiaoran the confidence to provoke them and go against the authorities? Chu Xiaoran was courting death. Tea city was in chaos for several days, and the authorities did not let Chu Xiaoran take action. Instead, they bought products from other channels to make up for the lack of products. With the influx of these products, Chu Xiaoran would no longer be able to monopolize certain products. Previously, with Chu Xiaoran around, it was difficult for products from other places to enter Tea City. Basically, the shops in Tea City were all products from Chu Xiaoran's company, and it was almost mandatory. Chu Xiaoran wanted to stir up chaos in Tea City's economy, but in the end, the authorities brought in products from other places. It was a matter of who could outplay the other. The authorities stabilized the people's emotions, but Chu Xiaoran was not in a good mood. Now, the market in Tea City was filled with similar products that were cheaper than his. Chu Xiaoran was very confident that once he took action, it would cause economic turmoil. However, the current situation made Chu Xiaoran feel awkward. Most importantly, his position as the hegemon of Tea City's business was being threatened, and he no longer had the advantage of monopolizing certain products. A monopoly would lead to huge profits. Chu Xiaoran felt that he had fallen into a trap. This was a conspiracy against him, and no matter what he did, he would be weakened. Su Wenlang. This man is really gutsy. Chapter 520. The reason why Chu Xiaoran did this was because he couldn't take it anymore. He wanted to see the consequences of taking action against him. The turmoil in Tea City's economy was caused by Chu Xiaoran on purpose. Secondly, he was used to being the most dominant person in the industry and had people following him wherever he went. Why would he listen to you when you asked him to change the price? However, Chu Xiaoran did not expect that the authorities would not look for him or compromise with him. Chu Xiaoran could only wipe his face and feel extremely annoyed. Besides, the products mentioned in the news could no longer be produced according to the agreement. Not only did they lose their monopoly on a few products, but they could no longer be produced. This was a blow to Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran was now stuck in a dilemma. If he moved forward, he would not know what was waiting for him. If he retreated, the strength of his company would drop too much. He would be surrounded by vicious dogs who wanted to pounce on him. Chu Xiaoran was furious. He had been schemed against by an ant. No, it was the authorities. They thought that they could defeat him by pushing an ant against him. That would make Tea City's economy go into complete chaos. Chu Xiaoran put all of his products into the market at half of the original price, which was much cheaper than the products that entered Tea City's market. It was a price war now. Chu Xiaoran did not care about the cost and lowered the price to squeeze out other products. In any case, Chu Xiaoran was currently suppressing his anger. Ning Shu could only say that if God wanted to destroy a man, he would first make him go crazy. What Chu Xiaoran did was to hurt his enemy and go against the authorities. It would be strange if they would let him go. Chu Xiaoran wanted to use the price to crowd out similar products. However, not long after, it was revealed that the products produced by Chu Xiaoran contained toxic substances. Then, a series of experts seriously explained on the media what the toxic substances would do to the human body. It would cause irreversible damage to the heart, liver, spleen, lungs, and kidneys. The people followed blindly when they heard those experts say that none of them bought Chu Xiaoran's products. They avoided them as if they were poison. Ning Shu sent a lawyer's letter to Chu Xiaoran, asking him to stop the production of these products and remove them from the market. Chu Xiaoran lost his monopoly on these products and lost the right to produce them permanently. His certificate had also been revoked. There are too many ways for the higher-ups to mess with you. The authorities had given Chu Xiaoran an opinion on the price adjustment. If Chu Xiaoran had listened to them and adjusted the price according to the opinion, there wouldn't have been so much trouble. Although the profits would be less, there would still be some. However, Chu Xiaoran was unwilling to do so. Since you look like you want to overturn the heavens, Then you can only wait to be suppressed like Sun Wukong. When Chu Xiaoran received Ning Shu's lawyer's letter, he was so angry that he tore it into pieces and rubbed his forehead. During this period of time, Chu Xiaoran's lips were blistered, and he was under a lot of pressure. The board of directors questioned his ability to deal with the crisis. Chu Xiaoran just wanted to kick these people down the stairs. In the past, they didn't even dare to say a word and would smile when they made money. Now they had the guts to come out one by one and criticize him. The company's share price was like a bungee jump. All the shareholders who owned Chu Xiaoran's company's shares were selling them like crazy. However, they couldn't sell them just because they wanted to. It was a waste of money. There were even some crazy shareholders who came to Chu Xiaoran's company to cause trouble. Chu Xiaoran rubbed his swollen forehead and leaned against the chair with his eyes closed. No one knew if he was asleep or if he was thinking about serving her. When Xia Xiaoran entered the office, she saw Chu Xiaoran, who was resting with his eyes closed. He looked exhausted. Xia Xiaoran's heart ached, and she put down the pot of soup. Chu Xiaoran heard some movement and opened his eyes to see Xia Xiaoran. She was wearing a dress, revealing her fair and smooth calves. Her face was rosy, and there was a look of joy between her eyebrows. "I've stewed some soup for you. Have some." Xia Xiaoran poured a bowl of soup for Chu Xiaoran and handed it to him. "Have some." Chu Xiaoran took the bowl and glanced at Xia Xiaoran. He asked, "Why are you here? What's the matter?" A smile immediately appeared on Xia Xiaoran's face. She touched her lower abdomen and took a deep breath. Just as she was about to say something, Chu Xiaoran took a sip of the soup and threw the bowl onto the table, causing the soup to spill out. Xia Xiaoran was stunned. Chu Xiaoran looked very impatient and said angrily, "What soup is this? It's so fishy. What are you doing here at the company? Can't you stay in the villa if you have nothing to do? Why are you running around? Can't you see that I'm busy?" Chu Xiaoran was very annoyed now, and anything could be a reason for him to vent his anger. Chu Xiaoran was not the kind of person who would endure for others. Even if the person in front of him was Xia Xiaoran, Chu Xiaoran would not tolerate it. Xia Xiaoran's face suddenly turned pale. She had come to tell Chu Xiaoran the good news that she was pregnant. Even though Xia Xiaoran did not pay attention to Chu Xiaoran's company, she knew about his situation recently. Something had happened in the company, and Xia Xiaoran knew that Chu Xiaoran was very anxious. The miscarriage 3 years ago made Xia Xiaoran pay a lot of attention to her health. Her period was already half a month late. She checked herself and found that she was pregnant. Xia Xiaoran was afraid that it was not safe, so she went to the hospital for a checkup. After confirming that she was pregnant, Xia Xiaoran was both happy and worried. She wanted to do something that would make Chu Xiaoran happy at this time, but she was not sure if Chu Xiaoran would like this child. Xia Xiaoran's heart trembled when she saw Chu Xiaoran's cold and impatient face. She hurriedly picked up the bowl and asked, "Is it fishy?" Xia Xiaoran took a sip and immediately covered her mouth, almost vomiting it out. Her stomach was churning. Chu Xiaoran became even more impatient when he saw Xia Xiaoran's reaction. "Why are you still bringing me the food that you vomited from? Don't just stand here. Go back, I'm very busy with the company." "But Chu Xiaoran, I have something to tell you," Xia Xiaoran said. She was still beaming with joy previously, but now her face had turned pale. "I'm busy. Let's talk about it later. Get out." Chu Xiaoran was now like a lion that was locked in a cage. He was moving around restlessly in the cage, but there was no way for him to escape. Xia Xiaoran was frightened by Chu Xiaoran's appearance. She staggered twice and her face turned pale. She felt extremely miserable. Chu Xiaoran did not welcome the arrival of this child at all. He did not even give her a chance to speak. "This is our child." Xia Xiaoran was at a loss and sad. She covered her lower abdomen with her hand and looked at Chu Xiaoran with a hurt expression. Chu Xiaoran was already burning with anxiety. Now that Xia Xiaoran was still looking at him with such a bitter face, Chu Xiaoran felt very annoyed. He suppressed the anger in his heart and said, "I told you to go back. What are you waiting for? You should come to the company." "Xia Xiaoran, don't challenge my patience." Chapter 521. Xia Xiaoman's pregnancy was supposed to be a joyous occasion, but unfortunately, the timing was not right. If it was when Chu Xiaoran was at his peak, it would naturally be a joyous occasion, but now, Chu Xiaoran was in dire straits. However, in Xia Xiaoman's heart, Chu Xiaoran was the kind of person who was omnipotent and could solve anything in his hands. At the end of the day, Xia Xiaoman did not have a clear understanding of Chu Xiaoran's current situation. Well, Xia Xiaoman did not need to understand these things at all. She just needed to do what she was supposed to do, and serve Chu Xiaoran by communicating with him using her body. Xia Xiaoman did not need to do anything while staying by Chu Xiaoran's side. She just needed to wait for Chu Xiaoran to sleep with her. I just want to tell you something, Xia Xiaoman said miserably. I'll leave once I'm done. I'm pregnant. Before Xia Xiaoman could finish speaking, she was interrupted by Chu Xiaoran. Why? Are you being disobedient now? I told you to go back. Xia Xiaoman burst into tears and ran out of the office while wiping her tears. She made up her mind not to tell Chu Xiaoran that she was pregnant. Chu Xiaoran's attitude just now completely hurt Xia Xiaoman. Even if she told him that she was pregnant, Chu Xiaoran would probably hurt her child. Xia Xiaoman bit her lip tightly. What should she do? The only thing she was certain of was that she had to keep the child. The miscarriage 3 years ago had already caused Xia Xiaoman to be devastated. This child was given to her by God. Although Xia Xiaoman decided to keep the child, she did not know what identity the child would be born with. She and Chu Xiaoran were not married, so the child would be born as an illegitimate child. She was already tortured by being forced to become a mistress, but her child could not bear such a terrible reputation before it was even born. The mother was a mistress, and the child was an illegitimate child. Xia Xiaoman left the office with a blank expression, not knowing what to do. Xia Xiaoman gently touched her belly, thought for a while, and took out her phone to make a call. Ning Shu was busy when he received a call from Xia Xiaoman. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. Why is Xia Xiaoman calling me? I thought that she should stop contacting me after calling me a bitch last time. Why is she calling me? Ning Shu coughed and answered the phone. The person on the other end of the phone first called out Brother Wenlang, and then began to cry. Ning Shu hung up the phone and blocked her. Ning Shu didn't want to care about Xia Xiaoman's affairs at all. Ning Shu was preparing to sue Chu Xiaoran, and ignored Xia Xiaoman. Xia Xiaoman's life and death had nothing to do with her. She had no responsibility to take care of Xia Xiaoman, and even had to be responsible for Xia Xiaoman's emotions. However, Ning Shu didn't expect that Xia Xiaoman would actually come to the law firm to look for her. When Xia Xiaoman saw Ning Shu, she started crying before she could even speak. Ning Shu's eyes were empty, as if he didn't see Xia Xiaoman. Seeing that Ning Shu didn't speak, Xia Xiaoman had no choice but to speak first. Her voice had a strong nasal sound. Ning Shu shouted, Brother Wenlang. After calling him Brother Wenlang, she began to cry again. There were people coming and going in the law firm, and they all glanced at the crying and red-faced Xia Xiaoman. Ning Shu rubbed his eyebrows. Don't cry, let's talk in the office. Brother Wenlang. Xia Xiaoman saw the impatience between Ning Shu's eyebrows and felt very sad. Chu Xiaoran was fierce to her, and even Brother Wenlang was like this to her. Xia Xiaoman looked absent-minded. She didn't even know why she was living like this. She only wanted the happiness of the people she cared about, including Brother Wenlang. She endured and did everything for the sake of the people she cared about. I said stop crying, let's talk in the office. Ning Shu repeated. Seeing Xia Xiaoman's bitter expression, he didn't know what she was thinking. Xia Xiaoman was best at making simple things very painful. This kind of continuous self-abuse made people speechless. Xia Xiaoman followed Ning Shu into the office and sat on the sofa, still wiping her tears. Ning Shu closed the door and sat opposite Xia Xiaoman. He asked, Why are you looking for me? Brother Wenlang. Xia Xiaoman looked at Ning Shu, bit her lip and said, Brother Wenlang, I'm pregnant. I didn't do it. Ning Shu hurriedly waved his hand. Xia Xiaoman glanced at Ning Shu, wiped her tears and said, Of course this child isn't yours. This child is Chu Xiaoran's. Ning Shu nodded. Then why are you looking for me? She probably had something to ask of her again. Not long ago, she was still stubbornly ignoring her. Why was she looking for her now? One wouldn't visit a temple for no reason. If Xia Xiaoman was lucky, she definitely wouldn't have thought of looking for her. At this time, Xia Xiaoman had already chosen to forget that they had fallen out previously. Brother Wenlang, Brother Wenlang. Xia Xiaoman cried again. What should I do? Ning Shu. Crying my ass, I'm still fucking alive. Ning Shu looked coldly at the crying Xia Xiaoman. Let's see how long you can cry for. Probably because there was no one to comfort her. It was quite awkward to cry alone. Xia Xiaoman gradually stopped crying. Ning Shu said, Brother Wenlang, please help me. I'm at my wit's end. Ning Shu's face was still cold. Xia Xiaoman pursed her lips and said, I'm pregnant, but Chu Shaoran doesn't seem to care about this child. My life is ruined, but I don't want my child to have such a bad reputation. So, Ning Shu asked coldly. Xia Xiaoman bit her lips tightly and knelt in front of Ning Shu. Brother Wenlang, I know that I'm very unbearable in your heart, but the child is innocent. The child isn't mine. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. A pregnant woman was kneeling in front of him. Ning Shu was expressionless. Was she trying to use this method to make him compromise? Get to the point. I'm very busy. There are still many lawsuits waiting for me to deal with. Let's not waste each other's time, okay? Ning Shu said indifferently. Get up. Why are you kneeling? You're already pregnant, but you're still kneeling. Aren't you worried that something might go wrong? Hearing that something might go wrong, Xia Xiaoman immediately got up and sat down carefully. She placed her hand on her abdomen to protect the child. Xia Xiaoman, I remember that we're already over. What do you mean by this? Ning Shu was very impatient. Do you not understand what I'm saying? Xia Xiaoman's face turned pale, and she felt disappointed. Brother Wenlang had completely changed. In the past, Brother Wenlang would rush over no matter what happened to her. He was very good to her, and took good care of her. She had lost Brother Wenlang, but she didn't regret it. If she could make Brother Wenlang happy, and not let Brother Wenlang's career be affected by Chu Shaoran, she could endure it. Brother Wenlang, let's get married. Xia Xiaoman said very seriously. There was a deep sadness between her eyebrows. She struggled and finally made up her mind. Let's get married. What did you say? Ning Shu couldn't help but want to dig his ears. Chapter 522. Ning Shu suspected that he was hallucinating. What did Xia Xiaoman say? Xia Xiaoman wanted to marry him? Ning Shu's face twitched. Do you know what you're saying? Xia Xiaoman struggled and finally said, Brother Wenlang, let's get married. Ning Shu. He was sure that he wasn't hallucinating. What's the reason? Why do you want to marry me? If my memory serves me right, I remember that you're Chu Shaoran's woman, and you're pregnant with his child. Why are you here to tell me that you want to marry me? Ning Shu looked at Xia Xiaoman in disbelief. Xia Xiaoman's expression was unsightly as she sorrowfully said, Brother Wenlang, I know that I'm willing to be someone's mistress, but I don't want my child to bear such an unbearable reputation. Ning Shu's expression was cold. Then why are you pregnant with him? Xia Xiaoman said anxiously. Brother Wenlang, don't worry. We're only in a fake marriage. I don't want the child to be an illegitimate child. Ning Shu. Pfft. He finally understood that she was going to be the hero who took over the child for someone else. She was going to raise someone else's child for a fake wife. Ning Shu just wanted to laugh. Xia Xiaoman said that she was in a fake marriage because she wanted to maintain her innocence and let her child have a proper status. She didn't have to fulfill the obligations of a husband and wife. Damn, the supporting male lead was so miserable. There were really all kinds of strange things in the world. What was Su Wenlang after? Did he just rely on the fact that he loved her and had feelings for her for so many years? Ning Shu wiped her face and curled her lips slightly. She looked at Xia Xiaoman and said, Why did I have to fake a marriage with you and occupy my household register? Also, what kind of woman can't I marry? Why did I have to marry a pregnant woman? A fake marriage? Is it because you won't let me touch you after the marriage? Xia Xiaoman was at a loss for words. Does Chu Shaoran know that you want to marry me? Does Chu Shaoran know about the existence of this child? Ning Shu asked calmly. He wasn't angry at all. But he didn't understand why Xia Xiaoman was so self-righteous. Just because of feelings, should others naturally contribute? Xia Xiaoman shook her head. He doesn't know. But I can feel that he has no expectations for this child. He doesn't even want to see me now. Ning Shu took a deep breath, as if he had a toothache. Xia Xiaoman is really naive and sweet. What's the situation now? Chu Xiaoran is now anxious about the company's affairs and doesn't like anyone. He probably wants to kill someone. He was simply asking for a snub. If he only went up to her now. Chu Xiaoran was a little fierce to her. Then, when she was pregnant, he would come over to pretend to marry her and give the child a status. Ning Shu really wanted to kneel down. She was always capable of doing something. If I really agree to the marriage, by the time everything is prepared and the invitations are sent out, Xia Xiaoman will go back on her words. Chu Xiaoran is still the person in my heart. Blah blah blah. Brother Wenlang, I can't marry you. She could have just stayed in the villa and found an opportunity to tell Chu Xiaoran about her pregnancy. This child was Chu Xiaoran's. Why did she have to make Su Wenlang take the blame and let the child take the surname Su? In the end, she didn't even have a wife and child. Could she be any more cruel? Ning Shu couldn't take it anymore. Do you want to leave by yourself? Or do you want me to chase you away? Ning Shu looked at Xia Xiaoman. If it weren't for your pregnancy, I would have long beaten you up and thrown you out. Xia Xiaoman's face turned purple, and she was extremely embarrassed. Brother Wenlang. Ning Shu immediately reached out his hand and gestured for her to stop. He then pointed at the door. Don't speak. Just leave through the door. Don't look back. Be careful of your steps. Hurry up and leave. Xia Xiaoman bit her lips tightly. At last Ning Shu asked, Brother Wenlang, can't you help me? I'm really at my wit's end. If I don't have a child, I won't be so thick-skinned as to beg you. Ning Shu chanted the clear heart mantra in his heart. I'm so angry, but I still have to maintain a smile. Ning Shu said word by word. I won't raise someone else's child. Brother Wenlang, I don't need you to raise the child. I'll earn money to raise the child myself. I just want the child to have an honorable identity, not an illegitimate child born from a mistress, Xia Xiaoman said sadly. Ning Shu thought Balala energy Fanalala, elimination technique. Disappear, disappear, quickly disappear. Make this person in front of me disappear quickly. If you want to get married, go ahead and get married to Chu Xiaoran. What's wrong with you for insisting on marrying me? Does Chu Xiaoran know that you came here with his child? Ning Shu felt that his worldview had been refreshed again. Why did Xia Xiaoman feel that Chu Xiaoran didn't like this child and wouldn't marry her? Even if I die, I won't marry you. Just give up. Ning Shu was impatient. Why should I marry you? I'm sick of seeing you now. Do I have to marry you and look at you every day? Ning Shu was so determined that Xia Xiaoman had no choice but to leave. Her back view looked lost and helpless. Ning Shu couldn't be bothered with her. To be honest, Ning Shu's heart was calm when he saw that Xia Xiaoman was unhappy. She must be drunk to be courting death like this. Due to the intervention of the authorities, T-City's economy didn't fall into chaos for long. Although it affected T-City's economic market, it was mostly under control. Ning Shu sorted out the information in his hands, then handed the lawyer's letter and the court's indictment to Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran was charged with monopolizing the market, abusing market dominance, and eliminating and malicious competition. This matter couldn't be over just like that. How could he escape after playing with fire? How could there be such a good thing? Ning Shu didn't care at all about Chu Xiaoran's expression when he received the indictment. Chu Xiaoran's company was the overlord of T-City. It was actually a family business. After Chu Xiaoran took over, it became much stronger and had deep roots in T-City. Logically speaking, such a company should be supported by the authorities, but it had already gone out of control. Even if the authorities had any instructions, he would ignore them and not listen to them at all. Moreover, he would often cause chaos in T-City's market, which was really annoying. It caused the authorities' power to expand and the market's efficiency to decrease. The decline of the Chu family was completely reasonable. It was imperative to get rid of the Chu family. Ning Shu was worried that Chu Xiaoran would transfer his assets abroad, so he suggested that the authorities check the direction of Chu Xiaoran's assets. Ning Shu didn't want to destroy Chu Xiaoran in T-City, and then let Chu Xiaoran live a carefree life in another place. Since he had already made a move, he would directly suppress Chu Xiaoran and make it impossible for him to make a comeback. The authorities didn't want this big piece of meat to run away, so they definitely had to investigate. Since they wanted to investigate this matter, the Asset Management Supervision Committee had to step in and check the financial transactions of Chu Xiaoran's company. With someone watching, Chu Xiaoran wouldn't be able to transfer his assets even if he wanted to. If he was caught doing so, it would be a disaster. Chu Xiaoran would have another crime on him. Now, everyone wanted to pounce on Chu Xiaoran and take a bite out of him. Chapter 523. Ning Xu waited quietly for the court session to begin. Everything was ready. On the day of the court session, Ning Xu and Chu Xiaoran met at the entrance of the court. Chu Xiaoran had lost a lot of weight after not seeing him for a while, and even his eyes were protruding. 3 years ago, they also met at the entrance of the court. At that time, Chu Xiaoran was high and mighty and wanted to give Ning Xu a job. Now the tables had turned, and Chu Xiaoran became the defendant, sitting opposite Ning Xu. Even though Chu Xiaoran was a little lonely now, his eyes were still arrogant and disdainful when he saw Ning Xu. He said to Ning Xu sarcastically, "You're just a lackey who grovels and begs for mercy. Do you really think you're a big shot?" Ning Xu did not take Chu Xiaoran's sarcasm to heart. Was someone like Chu Xiaoran, who went against the authorities and played with the market for his own family's interests, a big shot? Ning Xu always believed that there was no way an individual could go against the country. Not to mention that Chu Xiaoran was not strong enough to leave the country. Chu Xiaoran was not as popular outside of Tea City. All the land under the sky belonged to the king, and all the people on the shore were the king's subjects. Living on this land, one had to follow the rules. If a fish wanted to jump out of the water, wouldn't it be courting death? Chu Xiaoran was a big shot in Tea City, and now that he was being sued, the reporters really scrambled to take photos of him. Chu Xiaoran sat at the defendant's table and looked at Ning Xu opposite him. He sneered, and his eyes were full of murderous intent. Ning Xu did not seem to care, but he was vigilant in his heart. After the court session ended, the law firm had to hire more security guards. In order to be safe, Ning Xu also had to find a few skilled bodyguards for the 2 elders of the Su family. He was afraid that Chu Xiaoran would do something desperate and hurt the 2 elders of the Su family. As the plaintiff's lawyer representing the authorities, Ning Xu appealed to the judge and jury about Chu Xiaoran's crime. From the beginning to the end, Chu Xiaoran did not say a word, and his lawyer answered for him. However, the way Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Xu became increasingly colder. Xia Xiaoman sat in the audience with a helpless look on her face. One was the person in her heart, and the other was someone she had grown up with. They were both flesh and blood, and Xia Xiaoman felt as if her heart was being torn in half. Why did they have to be so confrontational? Xia Xiaoman really couldn't figure it out. If it was because she had hurt brother Wenlang, she was willing to atone for it. It was just that Xia Xiaoman felt very uneasy about opposing each other in such a place. Xia Xiaoman gently touched her lower abdomen. She just wanted to give her child a healthy and happy life. Why were there so many obstacles? In the courtroom, Ning Xu and Chu Xiaoran's lawyer were arguing with each other. Besides, Chu Xiaoran's crime was already set in stone. In the past, when Chu Xiaoran was in the limelight, monopolization wasn't a crime. In fact, monopolization was a compliment. However, now that he was determined to get rid of Chu Xiaoran, the crime was naturally established. The crime of monopoly was not enough to put him in jail. It was only a fine, but the amount of the fine made Chu Xiaoran's expression change. That was 3 times the profits of the monopolized products. 3 times. Chu Xiaoran had to spit out everything that he had taken. Even if Chu Xiaoran's lawyer wanted to turn the situation around, it would be impossible. The court gave Chu Xiaoran 3 months to collect the fine. Not only did Chu Xiaoran face a fine, but he also had to permanently revoke the production certificate of some products. Some of the products under Chu Xiaoran's company had already formed a mature industrial chain and were profitable industries. The revocation of the production certificate was a fatal blow to the company. Chu Xiaoran's face turned pale. Without the production certificate, no one would buy the products even if they produced them. The products that were produced illegally in the first place couldn't enter the legal market at all. Chu Xiaoran's face was full of malice, and he clenched his fists tightly while staring at Ning Shu opposite him. His eyes were full of haze and storm. Ning Shu looked at Chu Xiaoran calmly. After leaving the court, Chu Xiaoran clenched his fists and threw a punch at Ning Shu's face. Ning Shu dodged it in a flash. Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Shu with a pale face and said, "I underestimated you. I didn't expect you to have such power." Ning Shu spread his hands and said, "I don't have such power. I'm not the one who wants to deal with you. I'm just helping you." Chu Xiaoran was so angry that his face turned pale. He waved his fist at Ning Shu again. Ning Shu directly grabbed Chu Xiaoran's wrist, clenched his hand into a fist, and punched Chu Xiaoran in the stomach. Chu Xiaoran groaned and curled up in pain. Ning Shu punched Chu Xiaoran in the eye again, and Chu Xiaoran's eyes turned black at a speed visible to the naked eye. Chu Xiaoran bent over and coughed, covering his eyes with one hand. He was in great pain. Ah! Xia Xiaoman came out of the court and saw Ning Shu hitting Chu Xiaoran. She screamed and rushed over to support Chu Xiaoran. When she saw the bruises on Chu Xiaoran's face, she immediately showed a distressed expression. "Brother Wenlang, why did you hit him?" Xia Xiaoman asked Ning Shu. "I'm already very upset that you guys were fighting in court. Why did you have to do this?" Ning Shu spread his hands and said, "He hit me first." Ning Shu felt that it was meaningless to explain. He turned around, opened the car door and drove away. Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman were surrounded by a group of reporters and couldn't get away. After the lawsuit, Ning Shu hired several security guards and set up a lot of cameras around the law firm. He also hired a few bodyguards for the house. However, these bodyguards did not appear in front of the two elders of the Su family. After the lawsuit, the media and newspapers were calculating how much fine Chu Xiaoran had to pay. A fine of 3 times the profits. The meddlesome media roughly calculated that it would be about 1 billion yuan. However, the data given by the Asset Management Supervision Committee was much more than 1 billion yuan. 1 billion yuan was not enough to reflect the huge profits generated by Chu Xiaoran's monopoly. Chu Xiaoran had to pay this fine now, even if he had to sell everything he had. Otherwise, the court would directly close down Chu Xiaoran's company. Moreover, Chu Xiaoran couldn't escape now even if he wanted to. There were police officers around him. If they found that Chu Xiaoran had any strange movements, he would be directly detained. The authorities obviously wanted to take this fat piece of meat and make Chu Xiaoran hand over the money no matter what. If they had this money, T-City would develop better. Without Chu Xiaoran's suppression, the other companies in T-City would develop, unlike before when Chu Xiaoran's company was the dominant one. "Brother Wenlang, Su Wenlang, come out." Xia Xiaoman's voice sounded outside the law firm. Ning Shu walked to the window and saw Xia Xiaoman standing at the door under the scorching sun. Xia Xiaoman was stopped by the security guards and could only shout at the door. Ning Shu sneered. "Do you think I'll go out just because you call me? Do you really think I'll come and go as I please?" He didn't know what it was this time. Anyway, Xia Xiaoman wouldn't come looking for him for anything good. Chapter 524. Xia Xiaoman came to look for Ning Shu, but Ning Shu didn't want to talk to her at all. She either wanted him to sue her, or wanted him to fake a marriage with her. He found that Xia Xiaoman didn't think before she spoke, so she vented her anger on the spot. Last time, she mentioned a fake marriage, but after some time, she didn't mention it again. Xia Xiaoman saw that Ning Shu didn't appear, so she waited at the door, shouting Ning Shu's name. When she got tired of shouting, she found a shady place to hide from the sun. Anyway, she just stayed at the door and didn't leave. Ning Shu ignored her completely. "Do whatever you want." Ning Shu worked until night time. Seeing that Xia Xiaoman wasn't at the door, he guessed that she had left. Ning Shu shook his head. It was such a hot day, and she was a pregnant woman. Could her body take it? Ning Shu prepared to drive back. Just as he started the car, a figure suddenly rushed to the front of the car and opened her arms to block Ning Shu's car. Ning Shu's heart spasmed in fright. He quickly stepped on the brakes, and the tire screeched. "Brother Wenlang." Xia Xiaoman stood not far from the front of the car and looked at Ning Shu. She put down her arms awkwardly. Ning Shu's palms were sweaty. He got out of the car and slammed the door. He walked quickly to Xia Xiaoman and raised his hand to slap her. However, he glanced at Xia Xiaoman's stomach and finally put down his hand. Xia Xiaoman was scared by Ning Shu's raised hand. She looked at Ning Shu pitifully. Brother Wenlang, are you fucking sick? Is your brain full of shit? Ning Shu was about to die from anger. If the car hadn't just started and wasn't going fast, did she think of the consequences if she hit Xia Xiaoman? Xia Xiaoman's face was also pale. She mumbled, Brother Wenlang, you don't want to see me, so I can only use this method. I took the risk, because you don't want to see me. Ning Shu, what the fuck? How did it become her fault? Ning Shu glanced at Xia Xiaoman's belly, and suddenly stopped being angry. Being angry with people like Xia Xiaoman was simply asking for trouble. Don't look at Xia Xiaoman's mouth, saying that she was willing to sacrifice for others and endure pain for others. However, Xia Xiaoman was actually using this as an excuse for her selfishness. She was obviously pregnant, but she completely ignored the child in her belly and made such a dangerous move. She thought about what would happen if she was really hit by a car. As a mother, she didn't think about how to protect the child in her womb. She even said that she was willing to marry a man she didn't love for the child in her womb, so that the child could have a proper identity. Xia Xiaoman was indeed weak, but her weakness was even more detestable than Chu Xiaoran's scheming. Xia Xiaoman used a soft knife to stab at Su Wenlong's heart over and over again. Xia Xiaoman used Su Wenlong's feelings for her to kidnap Su Wenlang. Ning Shu turned around and saw that his car had been hit beyond recognition. Two cars had crashed into the road guardrail, and the front of the truck had been smashed into pieces. The car was dripping with water. Ning Shu's hands and feet were a little weak, but he immediately walked over and checked. There was no one in the truck. Did that mean it was an empty car? Ning Shu called the police and asked them to deal with these broken cars. There was no one in the car, and the person waiting for him on his way home was coming for him. Chu Xiaoran. Ning Shu sneered and looked around. The murderer should not be far away. Otherwise, he would not be able to control the car. Ning Shu looked around. Since someone planned it, they must see the results before they give up. In the end, Ning Shu saw a man wearing a hat not far away. This man did not look very old. When he saw Ning Shu, he wanted to turn around and leave, but he calmly walked past Ning Shu. Ning Shu suddenly reached out and grabbed his arm. The man was shocked and wanted to break free from Ning Shu to escape. Ning Shu directly pressed him to the ground. Ning Shu also kicked him fiercely. The man was in pain and cried out. He kept shouting that he was beaten up. The police rushed over and dealt with the scene. They also brought the suspect that Ning Shu mentioned to the police station. Ning Shu also went to the police station to make a statement. What happened tonight made Ning Shu a little scared. Chapter 525. Ning Shu had always known that Chu Xiaoran was a cruel and merciless person. She had offended him previously, so it was normal for such a thing to happen. However, Ning Shu was speechless when she thought of how Xia Xiaoran had come to beg her to stop fighting with Chu Xiaoran. She and Chu Xiaoran were already incompatible like fire and water, and Chu Xiaoran even wanted her life. Xia Xiaoran did not know anything, yet she came to beg her. Why didn't Xia Xiaoran beg Chu Xiaoran instead? It was because she knew that Chu Xiaoran would not listen to her, and would even suspect that she and Su Wenlang were still together. Xia Xiaoran was not confident in front of Chu Xiaoran, but she was confident in front of Su Wenlang. Hence, she came to beg Su Wenlang. The man who was caught did not confess, saying that he was caught when he was just out for a walk, and that the police could not simply arrest people. Ning Shu was taking notes at the side. When she heard this, she sneered. It was almost 2 o'clock in the morning, and he was still out for a walk. The police were the ones who interrogated him. The police directly stripped the man naked, leaving only his underwear, and threw him into the cold storage. Previously, the man was still very stubborn, but not long after, he was shivering from the cold, and kept jumping in the cold storage to keep warm. In the end, he could not help but say that he was willing to confess. When the man came out, the police put a thin blanket over him. The man's body was shivering, and his nose was running. He confessed with chattering teeth. He said that his brother was imprisoned by Ning Shu. The man's brother was one of the gangsters who came to Ning Shu's law firm to cause trouble. Because he hated Ning Shu, he planned this accident. Ning Shu looked at these confessions and frowned. These specious confessions still did not mention the mastermind. Ning Shu reckoned that the man would not betray Chu Xiaoran. Since he had done it, he had to pay the price. He could only wait to be imprisoned for the rest of his life. Even if he could not be imprisoned, Ning Shu would let him spend the rest of his life in prison. If it were not for her quick reaction, her corpse would have been unrecognizable like the car. Her mission would have been considered a failure. When he came out of the police station, the sky was already bright. Ning Shu took a taxi back to the law firm and rested on the sofa for a while. He was really tired. Compared to Chu Xiaoran, Ning Shu knew that her strength was not as profound as Chu Xiaoran's. However, she had an advantage, which was that the person behind her was stronger than Chu Xiaoran. However, if she was useless and died, the authorities would also give up on her. Ning Shu went to the city hall and asked the authorities to thoroughly investigate Chu Xiaoran. Ning Shu's reason was that Chu Xiaoran was involved in the underworld, and Ning Shu wanted to be the bait. If they could really find out who was involved, it would be a meritorious service to the authorities if they could crack down on the underground forces. After that, Ning Shu went to Chu Xiaoran's company with some documents. This time, Ning Shu went to ask for the fine. When Chu Xiaoran saw Ning Shu, he was a little shocked. However, he immediately restrained his expression and looked at Ning Shu with a sarcastic expression. "Lawyer Su, you're really dedicated to your work. I heard that you had a car accident, but you're not recuperating in the hospital. Instead, you're meddling in other people's business and demanding payment." Ning Shu clenched his fists and then released them. He said calmly, "President Chu, you really pay attention to me. You found out about the car accident last night this morning." Chu Xiaoran sneered. "Of course I pay attention to you. Fortunately you're fine. Otherwise it would be a pity." "He's probably regretting that I'm fine," Ning Shu said calmly. "Although it's a small matter, work is more important. Although collecting payment is a matter for the court, the authorities have given me full authority. I naturally can't let the authorities down. President Chu, when can the 1 billion yuan fine be paid?" When Chu Xiaoran heard the amount of 1 billion yuan, his face twitched twice and his face turned black. 1 billion yuan was not 14 yuan, and he could afford it just like that. Recently, Chu Xiaoran's situation had been very bad. In order to protect their interests, many shareholders had directly withdrawn their investments. It was impossible for these shareholders to help pay the 1 billion yuan fine. The company really didn't have much money now. Some products had their production licenses revoked and could not be produced. In that case, these workers could no longer be kept. However, the funds to dismiss these workers made Chu Xiaoran's liver ache. In the past, he was proud that his factory was the largest in T City and had tens of thousands of workers. However, now that he had to dismiss these tens of thousands of workers, Chu Xiaoran wished that he did not have so many workers and that the large production base was empty. The money in his account was only going out and not coming in. The company had laid off many people. Previously, it was still a giant business group, but it suddenly collapsed. The Chu family had been ruined in her hands. All kinds of emotions flashed through Chu Xiaoran's heart. There was hatred, regret, and more than that, indignation. Now that he heard that Su Wenlang wanted to pay a fine, his heart was filled with resentment towards this man. Chu Xiaoran almost couldn't hold back the anger in his heart. He said coldly, "It's not the deadline yet. Lawyer Su, why are you in such a hurry?" Ning Shu smiled. "I'm not in a hurry. I'm just here to remind you to pay the fine as soon as possible. Otherwise, CEO Chu's company will be closed down." Ning Shu sat on the sofa and did not move. He picked up the coffee and took a sip. Chu Xiaoran did not want to look at Ning Shu. Seeing that he was so leisurely, he asked coldly, "Why are you still here?" Ning Shu nodded and stood up to walk to the door. He then turned around and said to Chu Xiaoran, "By the way, I haven't congratulated Xiao Chu on having a son. Congratulations. Chu Shaoran frowned. He did not announce Xia Xiaoman's pregnancy to the public, because there were too many things to do in the company. Xia Xiaoman's pregnancy would only add to his weakness. However, how did this man know about Xia Xiaoman's pregnancy? All kinds of thoughts flashed through Chu Shaoran's mind. He said indifferently, "Thank you, but I see that Lawyer Su's glabella is turning black. I'm afraid there will be a bloody disaster. Lawyer Su, you'd better be careful." Ning Shu was vigilant in his heart, but he said indifferently, "Thank you for your concern, CEO Chu. I'll definitely be careful." Chu Shaoran's face trembled twice, making him look very sinister. Clearly, his recent mistakes had caused Chu Shaoran to suffer an unprecedented blow. Chu Shaoran, who had been going smoothly, was very dispirited. He was no longer in high spirits like before. Instead, he was in a sorry state. The domineering aura of a monarch had almost been worn away. There were many people who would help him in his hour of need, and there were also many who would kick him when he was down. Chu Shaoran had also offended some people, especially when he was in the prime of his life. He could even decide the life and death of others with a single sentence. Chu Shaoran was like an emperor. Naturally, he did not have any close friends, nor did he need them. What he wanted was to be revered by others. Wherever he went, he could summon the wind and summon the rain. There were probably many people who wanted to find trouble with Chu Shaoran, especially when they wanted to trample on a high and mighty figure. Chapter 526. Ning Shu purposely went to Chu Shaoran's company to annoy him, and then returned to the law firm. Ning Shu went to Chu Shaoran with a purpose. She wanted to do what a bait should do. Instead of worrying about her life every day, she might as well catch them all at once. Although it was a little dangerous, she hoped that the results would be satisfactory. In the following days, Ning Shu clearly felt that someone was following her. But these people did not take action. They just followed her, and were very cautious. If not for Ning Shu's superb martial arts skills, she would not have noticed them at all. These people looked much more powerful than the hooligans she met before. Ning Shu had a signal transmitter on her. It was placed on her by the authorities. If something really happened, the police would receive the signal and rush over. Ning Shu felt that she had gone all out for this mission. She had to fight against a man with power and influence. That was how tough it was. If you want to woo Chu Shaoran, you don't have to go through so much trouble. 2333 suddenly appeared and said indifferently, "Don't they say that men conquer the world and women conquer men with their bodies? This is the advantage of women. Leave the fighting and killing to men." "Well, your ass. I'm a man now. You want me a man to woo Chu Shaoran? Is your system okay? I think you've been poisoned." Ning Shu wanted to kneel down to 2333. "Oh, I forgot." 2333 said. "Ning Shu, do you think that if I woo a man with my charm value, he will care about me?" Ning Shu asked. 2333. No. She wanted to create a brand new life for her client. Could it be that finding a good man for her client was a successful life? Could it be that marrying a powerful man was a successful life? Maybe it was a successful life, but there was nothing happier than being free to be yourself, doing what you want to do, doing what you love, and realizing your dreams. No matter what kind of person she was, having someone by her side who could help her in times of need was love. Ning Shu wanted to go on in the thousands of planes. Feelings were not important to Ning Shu. They were more of a tie. If she wanted someone to accompany her, Ning Shu hoped that it would be when she could control her own destiny. Ning Shu's goal now was to live. A person's heart was too heavy. Ning Shu had nothing to exchange for her heart. If she gave her heart away, how could she go to the thousands of planes freely? If his life wasn't his, and his heart wasn't his, then what else did he have? Ning Shu avoided having feelings for the people in the mission. Of course, others did not like her. This was a rather sad topic. "You're so stubborn." 2333 laughed at Ning Shu and then went silent. Ning Shu felt that Chu Shaoran's underground power should be quite big when she sensed that he was peeping at her like a shadow. Therefore, not only did he have to attack Chu Shaoran's strength on the surface, But he also had to remove Chu Xiaoran's underworld forces. Chu Xiaoran's strength was not small. He was simply blessed by nature and favored by the heavens. Ning Shu drove and looked at the people following behind through the rearview mirror. Ning Shu thought for a while and drove to a remote place. In the end, he was blocked by several cars. Ning Shu, who was in the car, pressed the button on his watch and sent out a signal. The window of a car rolled down, revealing a face that Ning Shu was very familiar with. Chu Xiaoran turned to look at Ning Shu. "Lawyer Su, we meet again?" Ning Shu secretly pressed the button on his watch several times and said, "President Chu?" Ning Shu looked around and said faintly, "It's fate to meet in such a desolate place." Chu Xiaoran turned to look at Ning Shu and smiled at him. "It's not a coincidence at all. I came here especially for you." Ning Shu pressed the button on his watch again and looked at the burly men around him. These men were covered in blood and had a murderous aura. It was obvious that they had taken lives. Ning Shu's heart sank. Previously, when he looked at Chu Xiaoran's company, he felt that it was going to collapse. However, now that he saw Chu Xiaoran's subordinates, Ning Shu suspected that Chu Xiaoran wanted to go from the light to the dark and only manage his underworld forces. This was not what Ning Shu wanted to see. He was afraid that Chu Xiaoran would develop in a gray area, without the constraints of the law on the surface. He would only be more successful. Ning Shu kept pressing the watch on his wrist, but he did not dare to be too obvious. He said to Chu Xiaoran, "Then President Chu, why are you looking for me? I'm afraid of such a big scene." Chu Xiaoran smiled evilly. "Lawyer Su, you also know how to be afraid. I thought that Lawyer Su was not afraid of anything. I didn't see you being afraid when you were standing at the plaintiff's table." Chu Xiaoran waved his hand, and the burly men around him surrounded him. A man reached out and wanted to open the car door, but the door was locked by Ning Shu. "Open the door." The man smashed the car window and reached his hand in, wanting to open the car door. However, Ning Shu punched the man's nose with all his might, causing blood to splatter from the man's nose. He fell to the ground and fainted. Chu Xiaoran looked at the man who fainted on the ground, then glanced at Ning Shu. With a cold and cruel expression he said, "Catch her. I'll deal with her myself." Ning Shu originally wanted to drive away, but his car was blocked from all sides and couldn't be driven away at all. Ning Shu was pulled out of the car by a few burly men. Chu Xiaoran got out of the car. His black leather shoes were shiny, and when he stepped on the yellow sand, he was tall and handsome, giving off the vibe of a dark emperor. Ning Shu kicked the man who was pulling his arm in the crotch. The man groaned in pain, bent his body and clamped his leg, and rolled his eyes in pain. Chu Xiaoran's face darkened, and several burly men surrounded Ning Shu. Ning Shu was a little anxious. She had already sent out the signal, but why was there no response? Could it be that this place was too remote, and the signal was not good? Looking at these burly men surrounding him, Ning Shu didn't intend to fight them head-on. He just wanted to break out of the encirclement and run away as soon as possible. Ning Shu's body tensed up. He chose a direction to break out of the encirclement and fought with these men. These burly men were ruthless, but Ning Shu wasn't bad either. He had been practicing peerless martial arts ever since he came to this world. Although he didn't cultivate Qi Jin, his physical fitness was very good. Ning Shu pulled up his trousers. Ning Shu tied a dagger under his trousers. Facing these men who rushed up, Ning Shu directly stabbed at the vital parts of the men. Anyway, it was either he or she who died. Ning Shu injured a few men. He raised the dagger and was about to stab it into the burly man's throat, but he felt something cold against his head. Ning Shu rolled her eyes and saw Chu Xiaoran holding a gun in his hand and pressing it against her temple. Ning Shu's heart trembled. Chu Xiaoran actually has a gun. Chapter 527. Ning Shu originally thought that Chu Xiaoran had some underground forces, but now that he saw the gun in Chu Xiaoran's hand, Ning Shu's heart sank. It seemed that he had to re-evaluate Chu Xiaoran's power. With a gun in his hand, he was no longer an ordinary gangster. Because there was a gun pointed at him, Ning Shu did not dare to act rashly. The dagger in his hand was also taken away, and he could not move. Chu Xiaoran did not say anything and first punched Ning Shu's stomach. Ning Shu suddenly felt a pain in his stomach. Secretary Su, aren't you good at fighting? Chu Xiaoran said coldly. Chu Xiaoran still hated Ning Shu for hitting him at the entrance of the court. Ning Shu was in so much pain that he took a deep breath. He looked like he was in extreme pain. Drag him into the car. Chu Xiaoran looked at Ning Shu's evil expression. He was probably thinking about how to torture Ning Shu to death. At this moment, the sound of police sirens came. In the blink of an eye, the police cars were getting closer and closer. Chu Xiaoran looked a little stunned. He glanced at Ning Shu and raised his gun, wanting to shoot Ning Shu to death. Ning Shu dragged the two people who were on top of him and threw one of them towards Chu Xiaoran at the risk of losing one of his arms. The person who was thrown out by Ning Shu was shot dead by Chu Xiaoran, but Chu Xiaoran was pressed down by the corpse. The police came over. Chu Xiaoran pushed away the corpse on top of him, raised his arm to cover his face, and got into the car. After getting into the car, he fired a shot at Ning Shu. Ning Shu lay on the ground, but the bullet still grazed his shoulder. It was burning, but the blood could not stop flowing. His whole body was cold. Ning Shu looked at the license plate number of Chu Xiaoran's car. When the police came, Ning Shu quickly said, "The license plate number is T5348. The police car chased after Chu Xiaoran. Ning Shu was too tired and injured, so he was sent to the hospital and fell into a deep sleep. When he woke up again, Ning Shu felt that his body had fallen apart. One of his hands could not move at all, and the wound on his shoulder had been bandaged. "Son, you're awake." When Mother Su came in and saw that Ning Shu had woken up, her eyes turned red. "You're finally awake. You scared your father and me. We only have one son. What are we going to do if something happens to you? Catching criminals is the job of the police. You're just a normal citizen, yet you're doing something so dangerous. Have you ever thought about your parents?" Mother Su's voice was shaking as she spoke. Ning Shu knew that Mother Su was worried about him, so he quickly promised that there would be no next time. The authorities also came to visit Ning Shu. They even gave Ning Shu a banner of the people's hero. Then, the half-crippled Ning Shu had to sit up and use his mobile hand to hold the banner and take a photo with the authorities. He had an expression that said, "I'm honored, I'm proud, I should do this." When the authorities and reporters left, Ning Shu immediately said to Mother Su, "Mom, help me to sleep. Damn it, my whole body hurts." Looking at the cheap banner, Ning Shu's body hurt even more. "I can give you a banner, but you should at least give me something practical." However, Ning Shu learned that Chu Xiaoran was eventually stopped by police cars, just like how they stopped Ning Shu previously. Ning Shu felt very happy. Chu Xiaoran was temporarily detained, and the authorities quickly raided Chu Xiaoran's lair. Chu Xiaoran was an underground gambling den and a loan shark. The interest was compounded with the profits from the gambling den, and he used Chu Xiaoran's company to launder money. When the authorities came to visit Ning Shu, they were all smiles because this was another large sum of money. The more money there was, the better T-City would be able to develop. Ning Shu told the authorities that they must confiscate Chu Xiaoran's assets, and the authorities said that they would not even let go of a lackey. Only then did Ning Shu feel relieved. Even if he saw the cheap banner, his liver did not hurt as much. Ning Shu was hospitalized. The ligament in one of her arms was severely strained and dislocated. It was estimated that this arm would not have much strength for a year and a half. However, Ning Shu felt that it was worth it to pay such a price in exchange for Chu Xiaoran's imprisonment. Ning Shu was discharged from the hospital after resting for half a month. Chu Xiaoran's case was not tried, and the authorities released Chu Xiaoran instead. However, Chu Xiaoran's underground forces had been completely removed. Ning Shu felt very uncomfortable. If Chu Xiaoran was charged with being involved in the underworld, he would not be able to make a comeback for the rest of his life. After the authorities released Chu Xiaoran, they urged Chu Xiaoran to pay a fine of 1.4 billion yuan every day. Now, Chu Xiaoran no longer had the courage to throw a tantrum with the authorities. In the end, he collected 1.4 billion yuan in savings. As soon as Chu Xiaoran paid the fine, he was immediately detained. After a period of time, when there was enough evidence, Chu Shaoran would be charged with being involved in the underworld. Ningxu was speechless. He was really speechless. They released him, so that Chu Shaoran could collect enough money to pay the fine. After he paid the fine, they immediately arrested him again. It felt like Chu Shaoran had been played to a pulp. Ningxu immediately felt at ease, and hung the banner of the people's hero in the most conspicuous place in the law firm. Without Chu Shaoran, who was a ticking time bomb, Ningxu felt more comfortable all over. He had never felt so relaxed before. However, some people just did not want Ningxu to feel comfortable. Xia Xiaoman came again, and howled at the entrance of the law firm. She screamed at the top of her lungs, calling Su Wenlang, come out. Now, she did not even call him Brother Wenlang, and just called him Su Wenlang. Ningxu plugged in his earphones and listened to music, ignoring Xia Xiaoman who was screaming. However, Xia Xiaoman directly knelt at the door with the sun above her head. Her body was on the verge of collapsing. Others wanted to help her up, but Xia Xiaoman glared at them fiercely, as if the person who wanted to help her was her enemy. Ningxu pulled open the curtains and took a look. Xia Xiaoman's face was pale. Her back was very straight, and she was wearing loose clothes. Ningxu shook his head. It was one thing for her to humiliate herself, but she completely ignored the child in her womb. Xia Xiaoman fainted outside because of the sun. Ningxu had no choice but to get someone to bring her in. The staff of the law firm fanned her, while pinching her philtrum. Ningxu saw that her eyelashes kept trembling, and knew that Xia Xiaoman was pretending to be unconscious. Xia Xiaoman slowly woke up. She rolled her eyes and finally fixed them on Ningxu. She stood up from the sofa, her lips trembling, and her expression was blank and flustered. She questioned, "Why did you do this? Why?" Ningxu was speechless. He was so confused. He had no idea what she was talking about. "Why did you do this? What good will it do you if Chu Shaoran goes to jail? Why did you do this?" Xia Xiaoman felt that the person in front of her was very unfamiliar. This was not the Brother Wenlang in her memory. Brother Wenlang would not be so cold and heartless. Ningxu was speechless. Why is it so tiring to talk to her? Does she not know the reason at all? Haven't you always wanted to leave Chu Shaoran? I'm helping you. Ningxu spread his hands expressionlessly and said, "Didn't you say that you hate Chu Shaoran? Didn't you say that Chu Shaoran played you? You should be happy that Chu Shaoran is like this." Chapter 528. Now that Chu Shaoran was in such a state, Xia Xiaoman could totally take the opportunity to get rid of him. However, Xia Xiaoman didn't do that. Previously, she was gnashing her teeth in hatred, but now that Chu Shaoran was in dire straits, Xia Xiaoman's heart softened. "Brother Wenlang, I understand what you're saying. Although Chu Shaoran forced himself on me and toyed with me in the beginning, he's still the father of the child in my stomach," Xia Xiaoman said to Ningxu. "Brother Wenlang, I beg you to let Chu Shaoran off." Ningxu rubbed the corners of his eyes and looked at Xia Xiaoman, as if he was looking at an idiot. Would he let Chu Shaoran off just because she said so? Ningxu was very curious about what kind of life Xia Xiaoman was living every day. He really didn't understand anything about the human world. Why did he feel that Xia Xiaoman was living a completely isolated life? All she had to do was lie in bed and serve Chu Shaoran. "You want to save Chu Shaoran?" Ningxu asked in disbelief. This was the first time Ningxu had seen someone like Xia Xiaoman. He didn't know how to describe Xia Xiaoman. She wasn't a wicked person, and was even a little kind. However, she didn't seem to have a brain. Everything she did brought disaster to others, and she did it out of kindness. Xia Xiaoman was an idiot. Xia Xiaoman said firmly, "Brother Wenlang, as long as I can save Chu Shaoran, I'm willing to do anything." Ningxu's body trembled. Damn it, here she is again. She's willing to give up everything for the sake of her loved one. It's the same as when she endured humiliation and became Su Wenlong's mistress in order to protect the reputation of the Su and Xia families and Su Wenlong's career. Give up everything? Ningxu looked at Xia Xiaoman's tragic expression that looked like she was about to jump off a cliff. She was speechless. Xia Xiaoman nodded. "Yes, I'm willing to give up everything. This matter happened because of me. Brother Wenlang, I know I've let you down. If you can save Chu Xiaoran, I promise you that I won't be with her anymore. Then let's leave this place. Ning Shu. Pfft. Ning Shu hammered his chest, saying that Xia Xiaoman had given up on Chu Xiaoran in order to save him. Xia Xiaoman, and he would leave this place and return a few years later. Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman would meet again, and Chu Xiaoran would feel that Xia Xiaoman had betrayed him. Xia Xiaoman would be unable to voice her bitterness, and the two of them would start a torturous relationship again. Damn it, she was still a pitiful supporting male character. For the sake of the plot, she would not touch Xia Xiaoman for the next few years. She would also raise Xia Xiaoman's child. Ning Shu hammered his chest again. Looking at Xia Xiaoman's expression, which seemed to be ready to die, Ning Shu waved his hand and said, "If you want to be with Chu Xiaoran, then go ahead. Don't drag me into this." Xia Xiaoman, when will you understand that we are already over? If you come looking for me again, I will kill Chu Xiaoran. Xia Xiaoman widened her eyes and looked at Ning Shu with tears in her almond-shaped eyes. Brother Wenlang, as long as you save Chu Xiaoran, I'll never look for you again. Get lost. Xia Xiaoman's face turned pale, and she looked sad. Obviously, she was sad because of Ning Shu's coldness. As soon as Xia Xiaoman left, Ning Shu took a deep breath. Xia Xiaoman had refreshed his worldview. Xia Xiaoman always had a mysterious confidence when facing him. Leave this place. It's easy to say that you want me to give up my career and go with you. Where's my brain? Xia Xiaoman simply thought of one thing after another. Her mind was unbelievably simple. Chu Xiaoran had been detained and his company had completely collapsed. All the company's resources had been divided up by other companies. The large-scale production base had been auctioned off by the authorities, and the money naturally flowed into the government's pockets. In short, Chu Xiaoran's matter this time had helped the authorities remove the thorn in their side. They also reaped the benefits of not collecting money, and their finances were not so difficult. The miscellaneous items added up to nearly 10 billion yuan, which showed that Chu Xiaoran's net worth was not low. Chu Xiaoran, who had been detained, probably did not know that he had lost everything and had been robbed clean by the authorities. 10 billion yuan could support the development of 1 or 2 large-scale construction projects in T-City, such as road construction and the construction of basic urban facilities. Meanwhile, Xia Xiaoman was waiting foolishly for Ning Shu to rescue Chu Xiaoran, but she did not dare to look for Ning Shu. She was afraid that Ning Shu would really kill Chu Xiaoran. Now Xia Xiaoman was somewhat afraid of Ning Shu. She stayed in the villa every day, and was simply like a rock waiting for her husband. When Xia Xiaoman's mother found out about this matter, she persuaded Xia Xiaoman to give up on Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran was now a reform-through labor prisoner, and was no longer the powerful CEO Chu. Moreover, this man had forced himself on her daughter back then. Now that such a thing had happened, Xia Xiaoman's mother felt that her daughter could get rid of Chu Xiaoran and start a new life, no longer being bullied by that man. However, the child in her stomach was a problem. Xia Xiaoman's mother struggled for a while and asked Xia Xiaoman to get an abortion. Xia Xiaoman was not married yet. If she kept the child, it would be an unmarried child. Moreover, the child's father was a reform-through labor prisoner. Would the child be happy after being born? Xia Xiaoman's mother was also considering the reality. It was better to have a short pain than a long pain. Xia Xiaoman could still start a new life. However, if she kept the child in her stomach, Xia Xiaoman's life would be more painful and tortuous. When Xia Xiaoman heard her mother asking her to get an abortion, she clutched her stomach in horror. She was so shocked that her voice changed. "Mom, what are you saying? You want me to abort this child? This is my child. He's your grandson. This is a life. How can you be so cruel?" Xia Xiaoman's mother did not speak for a long time. When she heard her daughter's words, she did not know what to say. After a while she said, "You can choose not to abort the child. Let's leave this place and move to another place. Your father and I will take care of this child. Don't have anything to do with Chu Xiaoran anymore." Xia Xiaoman shook her head and said, "Mom, I won't leave Chu Xiaoran. He's only in dire straits now. Moreover, he's the child's father. I have him in my heart." "What are you saying? Are you going to wait for Chu Shaoran to come back? He treated you so badly in the past, and forced you to break up with Su Wenlang. If it weren't for Chu Shaoran, you would have already married Su Wenlang and had a child. Isn't the child a bastard? Now you're saying that you love Chu Shaoran. Xia Xiaoman, are you trying to drive me and your father to death? You must leave with us. You can keep the child, but you can't see Chu Shaoran anymore. Xia Xiaoman's mother said, and went to the bedroom to pack Xia Xiaoman's things. Obviously, she wanted to take Xia Xiaoman away. Seeing her mother's tough attitude, Xia Xiaoman knelt in front of her and sobbed. Mom, Chu Shaoran and I are truly in love. Please give us your blessings. No matter what Chu Shaoran is like now, I still love him in my heart. Even if I leave Chu Shaoran, I won't marry another man, Xia Xiaoman said firmly. Chapter 529. Xia Xiaoman's mother didn't expect her daughter to be so stubborn as to insist on being with Chu Shaoran. She really wanted to beat her to death. Xia Xiaoman's mother didn't think that Chu Shaoran loved her daughter. If he really loved her, why didn't he get married after so many years? However, Xia Xiaoman was determined to be with Chu Shaoran. Everything she did was out of consideration for Xia Xiaoman's future. Xia Xiaoman still had a long life ahead of her, but her daughter didn't appreciate it. Xia Xiaoman's mother was angry and anxious. She said fiercely, "If you really want to be with Chu Shaoran, I'll take it that I've never given birth to you. Don't you have any shame? Because of you, your father and I have been treated with disdain whenever we go out. They're all laughing at us openly and secretly. The Xia family has been completely disgraced." Xia Xiaoman cried sadly and repeatedly said, "Mom, I'm sorry, I'm really sorry. But I can't leave Chu Shaoran. The child in my stomach belongs to Chu Shaoran." Xia Xiaoman's mother looked at her daughter and asked, "You mean you want to be with Chu Shaoran?" Xia Xiaoman nodded while sobbing. Xia Xiaoman's mother was so angry that she threw the clothes in her hand and the suitcase on the ground. "I'll take it that I've never given birth to you." Xia Xiaoman kowtowed a few times to her mother's back and fell to the ground, unable to get up for a long time. Later the Xia family really moved. Before they left, Xia Xiaoman's mother gave Xia Xiaoman a sum of money and told her to behave herself. Over the years, the Xia family suffered a lot of rumors and slanders because of Xia Xiaoman. Xia Xiaoman's father was a teacher and was a very upright person. However, because of Xia Xiaoman, he couldn't stand up straight in front of his students. Some students would even cover their mouths and laugh when they saw Xia Xiaoman's father, saying behind his back that teacher Xia's daughter was someone else's mistress. The main reason was that Chu Shaoran was a well-known figure in T-City. Xia Xiaoman's father lost a lot of his confidence and felt that he had lost his morals. He didn't have the confidence to discipline his students. Occasionally, his students would even disobey him and say that Xia Xiaoman was his mistress in front of him, causing him to burst into laughter. Xia Xiaoman's father was about to retire, but in the end, he couldn't take it anymore and applied for a transfer to a more remote school with poor conditions. He had really given up on Xia Xiaoman. This daughter of his could do whatever she wanted. If she wanted to be with Chu Shaoran, so be it. When Ning Shu learned that the Xia family had moved and left Xia Xiaoman alone in T-City, he was stunned for a moment before he understood that Xia Xiaoman had been abandoned by the Xia family. Is Xia Xiaoman waiting for Chu Shaoran to come out? This was true love that would never leave. Ning Shu sighed inwardly at Xia Xiaoman's deep love for Chu Shaoran. The trial of Chu Shaoran's case began. As Ning Shu was injured all over, he did not appear in court in person. Chu Shaoran managed to find a defense lawyer through some unknown means and reduced his sentence from 3 years to 1 year. In other words, Chu Shaoran had to go to jail for a year because of his involvement in the underworld. This punishment was actually considered light. It was possible that he would not be punished. Xia Xiaoman's face turned pale when she heard the verdict. She looked at Ning Shu, clearly dissatisfied with the verdict. Ning Shu did not pay any attention to her. In fact, Chu Shaoran himself was quite satisfied with the verdict. After a year, he would be able to make a comeback. Chu Shaoran, who was in the defendant's seat, glanced at the worried Xia Xiaoman from the corner of his eye and felt a warmth in his heart. However, when he saw Ning Shu, his face immediately turned sullen. He immediately imagined that Xia Xiaoman had gotten together with Su Wenlang, because she saw that he was in dire straits. The more he thought about it, the more sullen his face became. Besides, Xia Xiaoman was pregnant with his child. Xia Xiaoman did not know what Chu Xiaoran was thinking. She was full of worry for him, and her heart ached for him. After the trial ended, Chu Xiaoran was escorted to the detention center. Ning Shu walked out of the courthouse with a smile on her face. Torturing a person, destroying his life, destroying his beliefs, and trampling on his dignity. She had to watch as his hope was shattered, and she had to watch as the person she hated looked down on her from a high position. Xia Xiaoman caught up with Ning Shu. Ning Shu asked, "Brother Wenlang, why did Chu Xiaoran have to go to jail for another year?" Ning Shu glanced at Xia Xiaoman's belly, which was already slightly protruding. Xia Xiaoman's body was delicate, and she had probably been worried about a lot of things recently. She had lost weight, and her belly looked a little big. Ning Shu said calmly, "He should have been sentenced to more than 3 years, but now he only has 1 year. I was the one who secretly found Chu Xiaoran's defense lawyer. If you're still not satisfied with this, I can't do anything about it." "Brother Wenlang, don't be angry. I don't mean anything else." Xia Xiaoman hurriedly said, "Brother Wenlang, thank you. Don't come looking for me in the future. If you do, Chu Xiaoran will be in trouble." Ning Shu's face was cold. Xia Xiaoman's face turned bitter. She suddenly felt that the world was so big, but she had no one to rely on. Her parents had left this place, and Xia Xiaoman didn't even know where they went. It was as if they had completely disappeared from her world. Brother Wenlang was no longer the person who had been with her since she was a child. Lonely and fearful, Xia Xiaoman felt very panicked and fearful of the unknown life. Xia Xiaoman had never lived independently for a day. Ning Shu began to work without any distractions. The reputation of the law firm slowly rose, not only in T-City, but also in the surrounding cities. This was the intention of the authorities. They wanted to establish a good image that could even represent the image of T-City. Ning Shu was the one who was pushed to the front. Ning Shu organized the cases that were free of charge into a book. Ning Shu really didn't receive a single cent from these cases. Moreover, the background of each family was clearly investigated. Ning Shu didn't want some people to fish in troubled waters. In a year, Ning Shu was also a lawyer appointed by the government. He went to various towns and villages to disseminate legal knowledge. He went to many places, walked into the mountains, and went to the Jiangnan River. He saw all kinds of environments, and helped some people along the way. When Xia Xiaoman gave birth, Ning Shu returned to T-City. Xia Xiaoman was in labor pain for a day and a night before she gave birth to a son. Chu Xiaoran still had 4 months to go before he could be released from prison. He couldn't even see the birth of his child. During the period of Xia Xiaoman's pregnancy, she stayed in the villa that Chu Xiaoran used to hide his mistress. She was alone and hired hourly workers to clean the house. The money she used was given by Mother Xia in advance. If she was short on money, Xia Xiaoman would sell the jewelry and branded bags that Chu Xiaoran gave her previously. Of course, the price was only 1/10 of the original price. Xia Xiaoman was unwilling to do so at first, but under the pressure of survival, she could only sell the things cheaply. She cherished these things very much because they were given to her by Chu Xiaoran. In order to support herself, she could only sell them. When Xia Xiaoman felt aggrieved, she thought of Chu Xiaoran and forced herself to endure. Chapter 530. Xia Xiaoman had given birth to the child, but she had no idea how to take care of him. Facing the wailing child, Xia Xiaoman was at a loss and didn't know what to do. She didn't know if the child was feeling unwell, or if he was hungry or peed. Her heart ached when the child cried, and there were too many emotions in her heart. Xia Xiaoman hugged the child and cried too. The empty villa was filled with the child's heart-wrenching cries. Xia Xiaoman hadn't experienced any major events in her life. The Xia family was considered a well-off family. Xia Xiaoman grew up being pampered by the heavens and the earth. And she also had Su Wenlang, her next-door brother. Everything was in front of her. She had yet to step out of society and was polished by society. But Chu Xiaoran had already snatched her away. Even if Chu Xiaoran treated her badly, Xia Xiaoran had never considered her survival and was always entangled in inexplicable matters. Now the pressure of survival was on her, and she had to raise a child. Without anyone to rely on, Xia Xiaoman felt as if her heart was in a pot of oil. Xia Xiaoman carried the child to the law firm to look for Ning Shu. In T-City, Xia Xiaoman could only think of Ning Shu. Only brother Wenlang, whom she had known for more than 10 years, could help her. However, when she arrived at the law firm, she was told that Ning Shu wasn't around. Ning Shu stood in front of the window upstairs and saw Xia Xiaoman standing at the door with the child in her arms. Xia Xiaoman had lost a lot of weight, and her face was pale. A gust of wind could blow her away. Ning Shu saw Xia Xiaoman's complexion and knew that she was weak. After giving birth to the child, she didn't take good care of herself and hurt her body. It was fine when she was young, but when she grew old, she would be sick. No one else could ruin themselves like this. Xia Xiaoman had no choice but to go back. In the end, an older female employee of the law firm couldn't stand it anymore and suggested to Xia Xiaoman to hire a confinement nanny who could take care of the child. Xia Xiaoman was delighted to hear that someone could help take care of the child, but then her heart turned cold. It would definitely cost a lot of money to hire a confinement nanny, and she didn't have that much money. Xia Xiaoman didn't expect that she would have to worry about money one day. In her previous life, she didn't even have the concept of money. Now she had to make plans for money and was conflicted for a long time. Thinking of her child, Xia Xiaoman finally gritted her teeth and hired a confinement nanny. However, she was even more nervous now. Xia Xiaoman was thinking about what other things she could sell. With the help of the confinement nanny, Xia Xiaoman could finally take a breather. Then, she stayed in front of the calendar every day and counted the days, waiting for the day that Chu Xiaoran would be released from prison. Ning Shu was also waiting for the day when Chu Xiaoran would be released from prison. What was the point of staying in prison? There were people guarding him 24 hours a day. There was food and drink. When he was bored, there was a group of people to play with him and pick up soap. On the day that Chu Xiaoran was released from prison, Ning Shu drove to the prison gate. When he arrived, Xia Xiaoman was already waiting at the gate. Today Xia Xiaoman even dressed up. She was wearing a white dress, but she was too thin and didn't look as good as before. There was a lingering tiredness on her body. Ning Shu stayed in the car and didn't get out. He watched as people came out of the prison gate one after another. Chu Xiaoran also came out. Xia Xiaoman covered her mouth and burst into tears. She then threw herself into Chu Xiaoran's arms. Ning Shu looked at Chu Xiaoran. This was completely different from the Chu Xiaoran in his memory. The current Chu Xiaoran had completely lost his noble and proud temperament. Without countless halos, Chu Xiaoran was just an ordinary man. In fact, he couldn't even compare to an ordinary man. Now that Chu Xiaoran had nothing, and even had a criminal record, it would be difficult for him to step out of society. However, Ning Shu saw that Chu Xiaoran seemed to be very confident. Ning Shu pursed his lips. Does he still think that he can get up? Even if Chu Xiaoran wanted to get up, Ning Shu wouldn't give him the chance. After glancing at the two people who had successfully joined forces, Ning Shu drove away. In front of the prison gate, Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman were still hugging each other. Xia Xiaoman felt at ease when she hugged Chu Xiaoran's waist. She felt that she had someone to rely on, and was no longer afraid of anything. On the way back to the villa, Xia Xiaoman told Chu Xiaoran about what had happened in the past year. Chu Xiaoran was a little moved. He didn't expect Xia Xiaoman to give up on leaving with her family and stay behind to wait for him. Chu Xiaoran hugged Xia Xiaoman and said, "Let's get married." Xia Xiaoman was very surprised. She smiled and nodded with tears in her eyes. Although there were no flowers or diamond rings, Xia Xiaoman didn't care about these things. She only felt the joy and happiness of being able to stay with her beloved and her child. They would be a happy family. After returning to the villa, Chu Xiaoran hugged his son. His heart was full of hope. With his ability, he would soon return to his peak and give Xia Xiaoman and their child a happy life. If Chu Xiaoran wanted to make a comeback, He needed capital. However, Chu Xiaoran's assets had all been confiscated by the authorities. Chu Xiaoran decided to sell the villa. When he first bought the villa, it cost nearly 10 million yuan. At that time, 10 million yuan was nothing to Chu Xiaoran. But now, it was the only capital he had. It was the capital he needed to make a comeback. After the villa was sold, Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman moved into an ordinary house in the community and lived a life without a house. Moreover, the confinement nanny who took care of the child was also dismissed. Hence, the responsibility of taking care of the child fell on Xia Xiaoman's shoulders. Chu Xiaoran took the money from selling the villa and went out to look for business opportunities. However, he usually didn't gain anything after a day. When Chu Xiaoran returned home, he didn't even have a hot meal to eat. Without the confinement nanny by her side, Xia Xiaoman found it very difficult to take care of the child. When Chu Xiaoran returned, she asked Xia Xiaoman to take care of the child, and then went to cook for him. In the past, Xia Xiaoman didn't do any household chores. Hence, one could imagine how good the food she cooked was. Chu Xiaoran ate 2 mouthfuls and stopped eating. He ate something that was either noodles or paste. Living in a cramped house, Chu Xiaoran's heart was filled with anger. When he slept at night, the child would constantly cry, causing Chu Xiaoran to feel extremely vexed. Crying, wailing. Chu Xiaoran got up from the bed and went to the balcony to smoke. Frightened by Chu Xiaoran's voice, the child in the cradle cried even more ferociously. Xia Xiaoman's heart trembled when she saw that Chu Xiaoran was angry. She hurriedly hugged the child in her arms and coaxed him. Even though Chu Xiaoran was now in dire straits, Xia Xiaoman still gave in to him unconditionally because of the power he had accumulated over a long time. Chu Xiaoran was very anxious. He was eager to prove himself and stand up again. In the past, things that were easy in his eyes were now extremely difficult. He was chased out before he could even speak. The embarrassment and anger made Chu Xiaoran want to kill someone. The more it was like this, the more Chu Xiaoran wanted to return to the past and make these people who looked down on him regret and feel uneasy. Chapter 531. Ning Shu had been paying attention to Chu Xiaoran. He knew that Chu Xiaoran had sold his only villa and was preparing to start afresh with the money. Ning Shu could only say that he was a little naive. Chu Xiaoran was registered in front of the authorities. Basically, no one in T-City dared to cooperate with Chu Xiaoran. Even if they wanted to cooperate, what capital did Chu Xiaoran have? Now that Chu Xiaoran was no longer a business giant, other companies were scrambling to cooperate with him. Tea cools down when people leave. That was the reality. However, Chu Xiaoran was tenacious and seemed to be determined to succeed. Ning Shu felt that Chu Xiaoran could jump up and down because he had money in his hands. Without this money, he probably wouldn't be able to jump up and down. However, before Ning Shu could make a move, the person Ning Shu sent to monitor Chu Xiaoran told Ning Shu that Chu Xiaoran had already found a business partner. So fast. Ning Shu was a little surprised. Could it be that Chu Xiaoran was going to rise? However, news soon came that there was a new energy development project. It seemed to be very promising, and the company that cooperated with Chu Xiaoran was also very legitimate. Ning Shu sent someone to investigate, only to find that it was just a shell company. Even the office was rented, and only had the name of the company hanging on it. It seemed that they were eyeing the money in Chu Xiaoran's hands. Moreover, the plan was very thorough. It seemed that Chu Xiaoran had already taken the bait. Both parties had already signed the contract, and Chu Xiaoran had invested half of his money. Ning Shu just watched without saying anything. He didn't think of reminding Chu Xiaoran. Chu Xiaoran must have gone out to look for business opportunities and let slip that he had money. Then the swindler came up with such a plan. Chu Xiaoran had only invested half of his money. The swindler would think of ways to take all his money. Chu Xiaoran was a businessman, but ever since he was released from prison, he had been in a very irritable state, causing him to lose his basic calmness and rationality. In addition, the swindler did things very formally and considered all aspects. One could find this company on the internet. Moreover, it was registered with the Industry and Commerce Bureau. Only then did Chu Shaoran agree to cooperate. Ning Shu watched from the side, as if he was watching a big show. She naturally contributed to Chu Shaoran's difficult situation after he was released from prison. With her current social status, it was simply too easy for her to make things difficult for Chu Shaoran. Now, the situation between her and Chu Shaoran was completely reversed. She watched coldly as Chu Shaoran struggled bitterly. The high and mighty Chu Shaoran would never have thought that he would have such a day. Very soon, the swindler informed Chu Shaoran that he did not have enough funds and wanted to stop the project. The money that Chu Shaoran had invested previously would be wasted. Chu Shaoran gritted his teeth and invested all the money he had. However, the next day, Chu Shaoran was faced with an empty company. The technical staff had also disappeared. Not a single one of them was left. Chu Shaoran immediately realized that he had been deceived. At this moment, Chu Shaoran's body went limp, as if his soul was about to leave his body. This sum of money was all Chu Shaoran's hope, but now, he had nothing left. In fact, he could not even guarantee his future life. The family of 3 could only wait for dinner. Chu Shaoran was too greedy. He wanted to make a fortune with the money he had, and was eager to make a comeback. At that time, he had only invested half of the money. If he could stop the losses immediately, he would still have at least half of the money in his hands. Now Chu Shaoran could be said to be completely disheartened. In fact, he even wanted to die in an instant. However, when he really stood on a tall building and looked down from above, he felt dizzy and timid. He no longer had the courage to die. The depressed Chu Shaoran drank until he was dead drunk. When he returned home and heard his child crying, the volcano in his heart erupted. He then beat the innocent Xia Shaoran up. Chu Shaoran wanted to vent the grievances in his heart. Hence, he hit Xia Shaoran very hard, causing her face to be bruised and swollen. The drunk Chu Shaoran vented his tyrannical mood on Xia Shaoran, who could only bear with it silently. The next day, when Chu Shaoran sobered up and saw the unsightly Xia Shaoran, he knelt in front of her and begged for forgiveness. He kept saying sorry to Xia Shaoran. It was because he was too depressed in his heart that he tried his best to get up and give his mother and daughter a happy family. Xia Shaoran had never seen Chu Shaoran in such a sorry state. She hugged Chu Shaoran and forgave him without saying a word. Without money, Chu Shaoran felt weak all over. He stayed at home and did not go anywhere. Xia Shaoran would send him 3 meals a day. He did not care about his appearance, and did not even bother to shave his beard. He was extremely dispirited, and obviously had not recovered from the shock of being deceived. Chu Shaoran could no longer be found in the current him. Chu Shaoran stayed at home all day and did nothing. However, he needed to spend money on his child's milk powder, diapers, rent, utilities, food, and clothing. Xia Shaoran originally wanted to reach out and ask Chu Shaoran for money, but she remembered that Chu Shaoran had just been cheated of some money some time ago. Chu Shaoran would feel uncomfortable if she mentioned money to him. The pressure of survival was all on Xia Shaoran. Xia Shaoran, who had never worked before, had to work to earn money. People like Xia Shaoran were not suitable for work at all. Many companies did not want Xia Shaoran, although she had a university degree. On one hand, Xia Shaoran was considered a well-known figure in Tea City, because she was once the girlfriend of Tea City's Prince Charming Chu Shaoran. On the other hand, Xia Shaoran always looked lost and helpless. It was obvious that she did not have the ability to work. In the end, Xia Shaoran washed dishes in a small restaurant, and even clumsily broke a plate. When she received her salary, she still had to pay for the broken plate. She did not receive much money at all. After washing dishes non-stop for a day, her waist was about to break. Her hands were wrinkled from soaking in water. When she returned home, the child wailed loudly. Chu Shaoran sat on the sofa and watched television. He did not even think of hugging his child. After coaxing the child, Xia Shaoran busied herself with cooking. After a day, Xia Shaoran's face turned pale. When she slept, her waist hurt so much that she could not turn over. When the child made a fuss in the middle of the night, she still had to get up to coax him. Even so, Xia Shaoran still did not say a word to Chu Shaoran. The next morning, she woke up and prepared breakfast. She fed the child until he was full, and changed his diapers before leaving. Chu Xiaoran was still sleeping in bed. Chu Xiaoran, who had nothing to do, felt frustrated. Hence, he drowned his sorrows in alcohol and began to drink. The drunk Chu Xiaoran would always hit Xia Xiaoran uncontrollably. In the past, Chu Xiaoran used to treat Xia Xiaoran coldly, but now, it had developed to the point of punching and kicking. Chu Xiaoran, who had fallen from a high position and was frustrated, could only find a sense of existence in Xia Xiaoran. After sobering up, Chu Xiaoran confessed to Xia Xiaoran. He promised time and time again that there would be no next time. However, the drunk Chu Xiaoran could not remember anything. Such venting was addictive. Xia Xiaoran's forgiveness time and time again made Chu Xiaoran unscrupulously. He even felt that it was natural. Chapter 532. Ning Shu knew that when Xia Xiaoman went out to work, the family of 3 depended on her for food, while Chu Xiaoran did nothing. Not only that, he even drank and hit people when he was drunk. However, Xia Xiaoman still had no regrets. Ning Shu was dumbfounded. His outlook on life was refreshed again. How much tolerance does Xia Xiaoman have to live such a life? She still treats Chu Xiaoran like a treasure. She's in the late stages of Stockholm Syndrome. He felt that Xia Xiaoman was the kind of person who could still live happily with Chu Xiaoran, even after Chu Xiaoran raped her mother, raped her father, and didn't even let off the chihuahua at home. Su Wenlang treated Xia Xiaoman very well, but Xia Xiaoman couldn't feel love. Instead, Chu Xiaoran kept hurting her, but she felt that it was love. There was something wrong with his outlook on love. He didn't even have the basic respect in love. What kind of love was this? As long as Chu Xiaoran behaved a little better, Xia Xiaoman would take a step back. Xia Xiaoman was in a weak position, and she was the one who put herself in a weak position. Ning Shu only asked people to continue paying attention to them. He didn't plan to care about them at all. He looked down at the 2 of them, who were struggling to survive and suffering. In the plot, they were tortured and ended up together happily. That was because they had the support of money. Now that they didn't have the capital to torture others, they would only be tortured by life. Ning Shu went to court to file a lawsuit when he had nothing to do. He would also take some time to walk around and relax. Occasionally, he would listen to the things between Chu Xiaoran and Xia Xiaoman. It seemed that Chu Xiaoran was now addicted to gambling and wanted to become rich through gambling. Every time, he would take away the money at home. That money was the money that Xia Xiaoman painstakingly earned for her children. Chu Xiaoran, who started stealing money, felt a little guilty. He told Xia Xiaoman that he would definitely win a lot of money back, and didn't want to see her suffer so much. Xia Xiaoman didn't say anything, and had no choice but to work harder. Wasn't Xia Xiaoman tired? She was very tired, but Xia Xiaoman only wanted to have someone to rely on. Even if it was a little tiring, she definitely wouldn't be able to hang on if she was alone. Xia Xiaoman was a person who was very afraid of loneliness. She had no independent mentality, and Chu Xiaoran was her psychological support. Even if Chu Xiaoran was in a bad state now, Xia Xiaoman was still afraid that he would leave her. Chu Xiaoran did not take care of his family or his children. He was addicted to gambling all day long. He wanted to rely on gambling to win a lot of money, so that he could return to the past. Gambling had always been a bottomless pit. Even if one threw in a lot of money, they might not be able to win back a lot of money. Chu Xiaoran, who had lost money, could only take money from his family and gamble day and night. He became very irritable, and often asked Xia Xiaoman for money. If Xia Xiaoman didn't give it to him, he would beat Xia Xiaoman up, as if she was his enemy. He even yelled why Xia Xiaoman didn't sell it. Xia Xiaoman's heart was hurt. Chu Xiaoran had asked her to sell herself as a prostitute, which had completely hurt her. However, she was beaten up by Chu Xiaoran as soon as she refuted him. Xia Xiaoman often had new wounds added to her old ones. However, Xia Xiaoman still endured it silently, because if she said a word of objection, Chu Xiaoran would storm her. Without money and power, Chu Xiaoran was even more of a scumbag. In the past, the scumbag had money and good looks, so it was normal for him to be a little willful. Now Xia Xiaoman could no longer afford the rent. She could only move to a small house that cost 200 to 300 yuan a month. However, there was only one room, and she had to eat, drink, and defecate in one room. She was surrounded by rented houses and migrant workers who left early and returned late. "Boss, there's a woman called Xia Xiaoman at the door looking for you." Ning Shu was looking at a document when his secretary walked in and said to Ning Shu. Ning Shu raised his eyebrows. "Why is Xia Xiaoman looking for me?" Xia Xiaoman has not interacted with Chu Shaoran since he went to prison. It has been almost 2 years since then. Ning Shu walked to the window and saw Xia Xiaoman standing at the door. She was wearing simple clothes that were resistant to dirt. Xia Xiaoman was very thin, and it was shocking to see her. Ning Shu felt something in his heart, and an inexplicable emotion flowed out. This should be the emotion of the original owner. "Call her in." Ning Shu still had some things to ask Xia Xiaoman. The secretary brought Xia Xiaoman in. Xia Xiaoman looked a little reserved. When she met Ning Shu's gaze, she quickly lowered her head. Ning Shu saw the dark circles under Xia Xiaoman's eyes. She was obviously beaten by Chu Shaoran. "Have a seat," Ning Shu said indifferently. Xia Xiaoman sat on the sofa trembling. Ning Shu asked again, "What do you want to drink?" No. Xia Xiaoman hurriedly waved her hand, looking very flustered. The cruel life had destroyed Xia Xiaoman into a timid and humble woman. Ning Shu saw that her hands were very rough, and there were some small wounds. She was wearing very cheap flat rubber shoes. Although Xia Xiaoman was simple in the past, she was still very beautiful when she tidied herself up. She would never leave her high heels behind when she went out. The heavy pressure of life made Xia Xiaoman have no money and no time to tidy herself up. When survival became a problem, living was the most important thing. Ning Shu looked at Xia Xiaoman. Her skin had become rough and darker than before, but her lips were pale without any color. She was anemic and malnourished. There was even a black aura between her eyebrows. Xia Xiaoman's body was seriously overdrawn, and she might even die young. Ning Shu felt very stifled. Why didn't women love themselves more? Why couldn't they leave men? Xia Xiaoman's various actions made Ning Shu hate her very much, but she herself was addicted to it. When Xia Xiaoman saw Ning Shu staring at her, she could only lower her head and pinch the corner of her clothes with her hands uneasily. She didn't even have the courage to look at Ning Shu. The man was wearing a straight suit, and his handsome appearance set her off into the mud. Xia Xiaoman's heart was full of feelings, and she was very impetuous. "Is it worth it?" Ning Shu asked. A woman could humiliate herself like this. Xia Xiaoman raised her head and looked at Ning Shu, then lowered her head and whispered, "Brother Wenlang, I can't go back." Because there was no hope. She simply saved her strength and was too lazy to struggle? Just like that? Now Xia Xiaoman was less than 30 years old, but her face looked like she was almost 40 years old. She was dark and thin, and her whole body was tired. It was a good time for a woman to go shopping and drink coffee with her best friend in beautiful high heels. Xia Xiaoman's miserable life was completely caused by herself. Perhaps she didn't feel how miserable she was. She was with the man she loved, and they had a child. It was a perfect family. Ning Shu originally wanted to ask Xia Xiaoman if she regretted it for Su Wenlang, but it was obviously unnecessary. Chapter 533. Why are you looking for me? Ning Shu said faintly. They had not contacted each other for a long time. Why did Xia Xiaoman suddenly come to him? Xia Xiaoman's face was a little red, which made her face dark red. The sunburn on her face became obvious. Xia Xiaoman pinched the corner of her clothes tightly, looking embarrassed. Ning Shu didn't rush her. She asked her secretary to pour 2 glasses of water. Xia Xiaoman wiped her hands on her clothes, picked up the glass and drank the water. Ning Shu asked his secretary to pour more water. Xia Xiaoman hurriedly waved her hand. "Thank you, Brother Wenlang. I'm not thirsty." "Brother Wenlang, Xia Xiaoman opened her mouth, but did not say anything in the end. Xia Xiaoman really could not open her mouth. She came to Ning Shu because she was forced by Chu Shaoran. It was hard to imagine that Chu Shaoran forced her to come. In the past, whenever she mentioned Su Wenlang's name, Chu Shaoran would be very angry. But now, he asked her to come to Su Wenlang. because Su Wenlang was rich. Chu Shaoran often saw Ning Shu on TV, and Ning Shu was already the ambassador of T-City. There was a public service advertisement that was often broadcast on TV. Chu Shaoran hated Ning Shu. His eyes were red as he looked at his enemy who was infinitely famous. However, he had an idea in his heart. He wanted Xia Xiaoman to ask Ning Shu for money. Now Chu Shaoran did not mind his woman going to Su Wenlang at all. He no longer had any money to gamble. Since he could ask Xia Xiaoman to sell herself, it was obvious that Chu Shaoran was only treating Xia Xiaoman as a money-making tool. Even if Xia Xiaoman really slept with Su Wenlang, he would be able to get money from Su Wenlang. With Su Wenlang's weakness in his hands, he could get more money from Su Wenlang in the future. Under the threat of Chu Shaoran's fists, Xia Xiaoman came to Ning Shu. However, facing the person who almost became her life partner, Xia Xiaoman only felt embarrassed. She did not want to appear in front of Brother Wenlang in such a sorry state. Brother Wenlang, I'll leave first. Xia Xiaoman suddenly stood up and hurriedly left. Ning Shu raised her eyebrows. Xia Xiaoman had come to tell her something, but she left without saying anything. The person who was keeping an eye on Chu Shaoran told him that Chu Shaoran had sent Xia Xiaoman to ask her for money. Ning Shu was instantly speechless. The current Chu Shaoran was really disgusting. Chu Shaoran had always been so despicable. Otherwise, he wouldn't have done such a thing. When Xia Xiaoman returned empty-handed, she naturally had to face Chu Shaoran's fury. Chu Shaoran originally expected Xia Xiaoman to bring back 2 stacks of money, but she didn't even get a single coin. In addition, Xia Xiaoman said that she would never ask Brother Wenlang for money, which angered Chu Shaoran. Chu Shaoran grabbed Xia Xiaoman's hair and slammed her against the wall, looking as if she was his enemy. Xia Xiaoman's face was covered in blood and she fainted. Chu Shaoran immediately panicked. He sent Xia Xiaoman to the hospital. Xia Xiaoman relied on Chu Shaoran, but Chu Shaoran also relied on Xia Xiaoman. Without Xia Xiaoman he couldn't survive. He had no food to eat and no money to gamble. When Xia Xiaoman was sent to the hospital, the doctor said that she had a concussion. However, the hospitalization fee was quite high. Chu Shaoran scrounged up enough money at home. After paying the hospitalization fee, he was out of money and brought Xia Xiaoman home. Xia Xiaoman ignored her this time. Her mind was filled with Brother Wenlang's question. Is it worth it? Xia Xiaoman didn't know if it was worth it. Chu Shaoran probably felt that he was in the wrong, so he treated Xia Xiaoman much better this time. He even cooked for Xia Xiaoman and fed her mouthfuls of food. Xia Xiaoman's heart was numb, and she didn't know what to feel. After Xia Xiaoman recovered, she started to work again. Moreover, she was carrying the child on her back when she was working. Now that the child could crawl, it would cause problems if she left him at home. Chu Shaoran sat at the gambling table all day and didn't care about anything. Ning Shu felt that Ning Chu and Xiao Ran were living too comfortably now, which was why they thought of using her as their target. Ning Shu directly found someone to cripple one of Chu Shaoran's fingers. Chu Shaoran's little finger was chopped off in the casino. Chu Shaoran used to run an underground gambling den, so he should be very clear about the twists and turns in it. It was impossible to make a fortune by relying on gambling. Chu Shaoran probably knew in his heart, but he had to vent his frustrations. Besides, gambling was addictive. Once he walked on this path of no return, Chu Shaoran was sent to the hospital. Xia Xiaoman tried her best to collect enough money to reattach Chu Shaoran's finger, but it required too much money. Xia Xiaoman couldn't afford it, and couldn't do anything about it. For Chu Shaoran, Xia Xiaoman put down the last bit of dignity in her heart, and came to Ning Shu to beg. However, she was told that Ning Shu wasn't there. Xia Xiaoman was burning with anxiety. She waited at the door, but Ning Shu didn't come out. At this time, Ning Shu had already gone to the countryside to spread his knowledge of the law. In the end, Chu Shaoran's finger couldn't be reconnected, and he became a disabled person. Knowing that his finger was gone, Chu Shaoran was furious. He vented all his emotions on Xia Xiaoman, and beat her up until she was sent to the hospital. The two of them were lying in the hospital. They had no money, and were driven out of the hospital the next day. In the end, the two injured people could only help each other home. Ning Shu knew about these things, but she just smiled faintly. Supporting each other like this was also true love. Ding, do you want to leave the mission world? 2333's voice appeared in Ningxu's mind. Leave. He had stayed in this world for a long time, about 5 years. This was the first time he had stayed in this world for so long. He had to leave. Mother Su was very irritable now. Her son didn't want to get married, and was almost never at home. When she asked him to go on blind dates, he would run far away. Today he was in the city. Tomorrow, he would run to the mountains. Mother Su originally thought that she was already very irritable due to menopause. Her son's marriage made her even more irritable. Ningxu couldn't do anything to Mother Su. This kind of thing had to wait for the original owner to come back and deal with. Ningxu's head became dizzy. When he opened his eyes, he was already in the system space. Ningxu didn't care about anything, and just lay on the bed to sleep. This mission was really too tiring. It was really not easy to fight with the rich and powerful Chu Xiaoran. He didn't know how long he slept, but he was finally full. When Ningxu woke up, he saw that his soul was a little dim. Obviously, staying in the mission world for too long had hurt Ningxu. Ningxu sat on the ground and began to cultivate. When his soul was full, Ningxu stretched and asked 2333, "Why did I become a man again? Didn't you say that you fixed the system last time? Why are you always so hung up on this? Men and women are just shells. They are all fake. Why do you have to be so hung up on it?" 2333 said with some dissatisfaction. Ningxu stared blankly at him, speechless. "You still have a reason." Chapter 534. Ningxu gave up on talking about life with 2333. It was just a stupid system. Let's look at the points this time. Ningxu was looking forward to the points this time. After all, she had helped Su Wenlang find a new life and become a famous lawyer with a law firm. Number 23333. Name Ningxu, beginner mission taker. Age 27 points. 550 000/1 000 soul. 300 HP. 71 wisdom. 140 charm. 3 luck. 67 MP. 120 faith. 1415 aptitude. 39 strength. 92 merit. 36 skills. 5th ring shooting technique. Trash fighting technique. Beginner martial arts. Beginner business management knowledge. Beginner code programming. Beginner lawyer skills. Honorary title. Goddess of war. Selfless ancestor aura. Mother of the world. Queen's blessing. Sister model worker. Chun-Chi's blessing. Leader. Aura grass blessing. Best friend for life. Meow Meow Meow's blessing. Fulfill Su Wenlong's wish. Revenge on Chu Xiaoran. Mission completion. 100. Reward. 1,000,000 points. 50 attribute points. 15 faith points. Ningxu. Oh, Ningxu was stunned. 1,000,000 points. 50 attribute points. It was an unprecedented amount of points. Ningxu even suspected that she had seen wrongly. Is there a mistake? Ningxu asked 2333. He felt that it was too unreal. 2333's voice was a little surprised. What did you do to get so many points? Ningxu. Damn, I want to beat the shit out of 2333. Ningxu suddenly felt that 300,000 points was not that expensive. He could earn it back with just one mission. Such a high number of points should be, because Su Wenlang won a respectable position in society and escaped the tragic fate of dying young. Ningxu's entire body felt refreshed, and she happily jumped on the spot. Then she coughed and said, "Aya, how should I distribute 50 attribute points? I've never had so many attribute points before." Show off. 2333 murmured. Then, he continued to advise Ningxu. Add 1 point to your luck. Luck is a mysterious thing. If you encounter a treasure, you might not be able to get it. You might just watch it slip away in front of your eyes. Ningxu listened to 2333's advice and put his attribute points into intelligence, luck, and force. With so many points, Ningxu felt like a nouveau riche. The attribute panel began to change. Serial number 23333. Name Ningxu, primary mission enforcer. Age 27 points. 1550 000 soul value. 300 HP, 71 Wisdom, 14030 Charm, 3 Luck, 3410 Spiritual Power, 120 Faith, 19 Aptitude, 39 Combat Power, 9210 Merit, 36 Skills, 5th Ring Shooting Technique, Trash Fighting Technique, Entry to Unique Martial Arts, Elementary Business Management Knowledge, Elementary Code Programming, Elementary Lawyer Skills. Honorary Title, Goddess of War, Selfless Ancestor Aura, Mother of the World Queen's Blessing, Model Worker, Chenshi's Blessing, Leader Aura Grass Blessing, Best Friend for Life, Meow Meow Meow's Blessing. This time, the high points made Ningxu very happy. He felt that he had found the right direction, and that the consultant did not lie to him. It was to treat the mission enforcer's life as your own, and strive for a brilliant life. Fame, status, money, power. As long as you achieve one, it would be a successful life. Ningxu calmed himself down, and prepared to go to the virtual space. Although he could not afford to buy anything, it was good to broaden his horizons. Last time he saw the school doctor, Ningxu wanted to try his luck, and see if he could meet the school doctor again. 2333 was really a piece of trash. He did not know anything when you asked him. After a moment of weightlessness, Ningxu found himself standing on the quaint street. Ningxu first went to the consultation room, to thank the silver-haired man. But when he reached the door, Ningxu stopped. It was better not to go in. She would be speechless if he asked her for points after saying a few words. Ningxu turned around and left. He was going to the restaurant to eat something to satisfy his appetite. Ningxu liked this kind of lively place, where he could hear a lot of gossip. With so many mission enforcers gathered together, he could always hear some more important information. Ningxu ordered some dishes, and listened to the gossip of the people around him. In fact, Ningxu wanted to know about the school doctor. Originally, Ningxu only thought that the school doctor was a little badass, a little evil, a little misophobic, and a little abstinent. But after seeing the school doctor in the virtual space, Ningxu felt that the school doctor was even more evil. For some reason, he felt that the school doctor's evil aura was even stronger. He was a little scared. Ningxu gnawed on a drumstick while listening to other people's conversations. After listening for a long time, he did not hear anything about the school doctor. Was he hallucinating when he saw the school doctor? The school doctor who appeared and disappeared like a ghost. Ningxu was too lazy to care about the school doctor. He ate a table full of dishes, paid the bill, and wandered around the virtual space. Ningxu saw a pet shop. Pet shop. There were pets here. Ningxu walked in. The shop was full of cages with all kinds of pets. There were cats, dogs, and some animals that Ningxu did not recognize. They were probably products of other dimensions. Ningxu saw a husky. This husky was lying on the ground with its long tongue hanging by the side of its mouth. It had an expression that said, "What are you looking at?" Ningxu wandered around. He wanted to buy one back, but he remembered that he was doing missions most of the time. It was not good to leave a pet in the system space where time did not pass. The system space was very quiet. Staying in the system space for too long was actually not good for one's mentality. Ningxu gave up on buying a pet. After wandering around for a while, Ningxu decided to go back. 2333, let's go back. After a moment of weightlessness, he returned to the system space. Ningxu took a book from the bookshelf and started reading. He planned to finish reading a book before doing a mission. He could always finish all the books on the bookshelf. After an unknown amount of time, Ningxu finally finished reading a book. It was probably because his IQ attribute points had increased. Ningxu felt that the things he read were engraved in his mind. Yes, Ningxu's goal was to turn his brain into a library and become a woman who read books and poems. A beautiful woman with a heart full of literature and a mind as deep as a valley. Oh hee. Charm was not important. What was important was temperament. Ningxu watered the potted plant again. Then he slowly opened the exchange shop. As usual, he exchanged for fasting pills, water, medicine, fake death medicine, and realgar powder. After browsing the shop for a while, Ningxu resisted the urge to chop off his hands. He now had 5 million points. He only needed one. 5 million more to become an intermediate mission taker. Chapter 535. Ning Shu's current goal was to become an intermediate task enforcer. This way, he would be able to choose his own missions and talk to the person who commissioned him face to face. He would be able to understand what the person wanted and complete the mission better. Most importantly, he would be able to bargain. Awesome. He estimated that he would be able to become an intermediate task enforcer after completing 3 more missions. Ning Shu now wanted to save his points to become an intermediate task enforcer. He felt that he would only have a little say after becoming an intermediate task enforcer. He would be able to choose the missions he wanted to do. 2333, let's do the mission, Ning Shu said. This time, you cannot become a man. Let me tell you. Before Ning Shu could finish his sentence, he felt dizzy. Damn, 2333, this idiot. He felt that his soul was merging with the body. A female voice sounded beside his ear, but this female voice was slightly hoarse. Your Majesty, it's time to leave the bed. Ning Shu was still feeling a little uncomfortable, but when he heard the name Your Majesty, he suddenly opened his eyes and quickly touched his lower body. Phew, luckily it was a woman. Your Majesty. It was the Empress. Seeing Ning Shu's lifeless eyes, the female official beside her said, Your Majesty, it's time to go to court. Ning Shu had not accepted the plot and was still at a loss. The woman beside his ear kept talking, so Ning Shu could only get up. Another large group of servants came in and helped Ning Shu change his clothes. A cup of water was placed in front of Ning Shu's mouth. Ning Shu lowered her head and took a sip, swallowing it down with a gulp. Your Majesty, please rinse your mouth. The female official beside her saw Ning Shu drinking the water and quickly said. Ning Shu was speechless. Why didn't she say that this was mouthwash earlier? Ning Shu's expression did not change as he drank another mouthful and rinsed his mouth. A palace servant held a spittoon, and Ning Shu spat out the water in his mouth. His days were really extravagant. He stretched out his hand for clothes and opened his mouth for food. The palace servants then combed Ning Shu's hair. They combed it into an extremely complicated bun, and then inserted all kinds of luxurious hairpins into it. It was incomparably luxurious. Ning Shu felt that his neck was about to be twisted. He didn't dare to move. Surrounded by a group of people, Ning Shu, who didn't know anything, arrived at the place where the imperial court was to be held. Suddenly, a loud voice shouted beside him, Her Majesty the Empress has arrived. All officials kneel to welcome her. Ning Shu was startled by the female official's voice. Then he slowly walked over and sat on the dragon throne. Seeing so many people kneeling below, he stood up and said in a clear voice, Rise. Ning Shu wanted to sit down, but when he saw all the women below, he was surprised. Could it be Womanland? Ning Shu coughed and said, If you have something to say, just say it. I have a headache. Just as Ning Shu's voice fell, a woman wearing light green clothes and a gem between her eyebrows made her look refreshing and feminine. Her eyes were filled with worry for Ning Shu. She asked, Mother Empress, are you okay? Why do you have a headache? Mother Empress. Ning Shu looked at this young girl. She was about 15 or 16 years old. With such a big child, the original owner of this body shouldn't be young. Ning Shu didn't know who this girl was. He only said, I just haven't rested well. The girl said, Oh, Mother Empress, do you need an imperial physician to take a look? Another woman wearing bright yellow clothes asked. Ning Shu originally didn't have a headache, but this time, it really hurt. He didn't accept the plot and was stunned. The female official at the side saw that Ning Shu's expression was somewhat impatient. She quickly shouted, If there's something to report, the imperial court is dismissed. Every time he heard this female official speak, Ning Shu felt that his ears couldn't stand it. Fortunately, these people were more tactful. They didn't say anything and left the imperial court. Returning to the palace, Ning Shu said to the female official beside him, I will rest for a while. Don't come in and disturb me. Yes. Ning Shu laid on the chaise lounge and began to accept the plot. This was a time where women were respected. Men's status was lower. It was a world where men were superior and women were inferior. Women were able to support their families. Only women could become officials in the imperial court. The country was managed by women. The women here were treated like beasts, and the men were married to the women. The original owner of this body was called Mu Nishang. She was the empress of Xian country. She looked like she was in her 30s. The original owner of this body was a mediocre emperor. She didn't have any great talents, and didn't have any great achievements. However, she was still a qualified emperor. She only wanted to peacefully live out her life as an emperor, and hand over the country to a suitable successor. But in terms of the successor, Mu Nishang ruined Xian country. Originally, Xian country already had a crown princess. It was the woman in the bright yellow dress in the imperial court. However, Mu Nishang doted on the fourth princess. She even abolished the crown princess for the sake of the fourth princess, and supported the fourth princess. The fourth princess didn't notice Mu Nishang's painstaking efforts. In fact, this fourth princess was a soft and cute girl. The real fourth princess was a cruel and lustful person. She was killed by her own husband, and the soft and cute girl transmigrated. In this world where women were respected, the soft and cute girl knew how to act coquettishly and blush. She also knew how to act cute. She also inherited the beauty of the imperial family, and attracted the attention of all kinds of men. This was actually a story of a girl who attracted love everywhere. She fell in love with all kinds of men. The cute girl was indeed kind-hearted and treated Mu Nishang well. She treated Mu Nishang as her real mother. It was easy to tell if people were sincere or hypocritical when interacting with each other. Moreover, Mu Nishang had been the empress for many years. The fourth princess's care for Mu Nishang was sincere. Mu Nishang protected her daughter openly and secretly. It was inevitable that she would spoil her a little. The empress didn't like her position being coveted by others. Mu Nishang even tested the fourth princess a few times, saying that she wanted to pass the throne to the fourth princess. However, the fourth princess didn't agree. Moreover, the fourth princess disliked the throne. The fourth princess wanted to be a carefree prince and play everywhere. Being the empress meant being trapped in the palace. People were like this. If you insist on snatching, I won't give it to you. If you don't want it, I will give it to you. In the end, the throne was still in the hands of the fourth princess. The fourth princess was a soft and gentle girl. How could she handle the affairs of the imperial court? She was completely clueless. Even when Mu Nishang taught her how to rule the country, she was still sloppy. After ascending the throne, the fourth princess's official husband was in charge of handling the affairs of the imperial court. This fourth princess was the son of the prime minister. He was very knowledgeable. After the fourth princess gave birth to his son, he taught his son how to rule the country step by step. When his son was able to take charge, the fourth princess told the fourth princess to let her son be the emperor. Then the group of them would go sightseeing. The fourth princess was naturally willing. She didn't have any objections to a man being the emperor. After all, in her time and space, it was always men who were the emperors. Then, the fourth princess brought her 3 husbands and 4 attendants to sightsee. She enjoyed the happiness of having multiple men, and occasionally came back to see her son. Then the country became the Yuan families. It was still a man who was the emperor. The status of men and women slowly shifted. Chapter 536. In fact, in the hundreds of years that the Mu family ruled Xian country, male chauvinism had begun to sprout. That is, men were no longer satisfied with staying at home and being controlled by women. Men's male hormones had always been full of plunder and invasion. Even if the men of today acted coquettishly and put on makeup, the desire for power lurked in their bones. Huang Sika's personality was very attractive to men. Her personality was different from the strong women of this era. The men who could follow Huang Sika all loved her very much. Even if the mother had ambitions in her heart, she still wanted her son to become the emperor, so that she could play with her beloved. If she did not love Huang Sika, she would have become the emperor. Huang Sika was a girl worthy of deep love. She was sincere to people. She was a little silly and simple-minded, but she was lovable. The original owner's wish was to protect Xian country, and not let the lowly men control it. She did not want Huang Siku to become the empress, but she hoped that Huang Siku would be safe. Mu Nishang did not have any hatred for Huang Siku. After all, it was her own love for Huang Siku that blinded her and gave the people around Huang Siku an opportunity. After Ning Shu accepted the plot, he felt that this task was relatively simple. Huang Siku did not want to be the emperor. The country already had a crown prince, so the country could be handed over to the crown princess. Sozi, Ning Shu felt that this task was not difficult. The only difficulty was that she had never been the emperor. So now she had to learn how to deal with court affairs and be a qualified emperor. Your Majesty, Her Highness Huang Siku is waiting for Your Majesty at the door. I said that Your Majesty was resting, but Her Highness Huang Siku said that she would wait until Your Majesty woke up. The female official saw that Ning Shu had woken up and came over to inform Ning Shu. Ning Shu nodded. Let her in. Huang Xinu walked in and bowed towards Ning Shu. She was still wearing the light green robes that she wore to the morning court. It seemed that she had not returned to the Fu at all, and had come here to wait after the morning court. Just this gesture made Ning Shu's heart feel warm. No wonder Mu Nishang loved this girl so much. Even if the country was ruined, she did not blame her. Imperial Mother, how is your body? Have you called the Imperial physician? Did you not sleep well last night? Imperial Mother, you should walk more. Don't stay in the hall all the time. Go out and take in some fresh air. Imperial Mother, why don't you learn yoga from your son? It can help you shape your body, exercise your body and release pressure. It's only comfortable when you sweat all over, Imperial Mother. Mu Yao was a chatterbox. Ning Shu's ears were filled with Mu Yao's chattering. The corners of Ning Shu's mouth held a smile as he waited for her to speak. After Mu Yao finished speaking, she looked at Ning Shu with clear eyes. Imperial Mother, what do you think? Ning Shu was speechless. Ning Shu stiffly changed the topic. I heard that the servants in your inner courtyard are causing trouble again recently. Men should be disciplined more, don't spoil them all the time. Mu Yao's face reddened. She shook Ning Shu's arm and said coquettishly, Your son knows that they have no ill intentions. If they had no ill intentions, how could they have caused Mu Yao's death? Now that they sensed that Mu Yao had changed, each and every one of them had taken a fancy to her. However, they just had to put on a tsundere appearance and try their best to seduce her. Even the guards that Mu Nishang had sent to Mu Yao fell in love with her. The main thing was that Mu Yao was really too different. Even the son of the prime minister and the son of the minister, who had his eyes above his head, treated Mu Yao differently. Imperial Mother, your son will give you a massage. Your head will feel better. Mu Yao did not wait for Ning Shu's reply. She reached out to press on Ning Shu's temples and gently massaged around his eyes. Needless to say, Mu Yao's massage technique was really not bad. Ning Shu felt very comfortable. Yao, you're a noble daughter of the imperial family. You have to show a bit of dignity, understand? Ning Shu said with his eyes closed. Mu Yao was a soft and cute girl. Your son understands, Mu Yao said obediently. However, when faced with so many men, she had a feeling of being unable to straighten her back. Ning Shu did not really mind. Mu Yao's character was like this, and it could not be changed. Ning Shu had Mu Yao stay for breakfast, but during breakfast, Mu Yao was somewhat absent-minded. Ning Shu saw her like this, and had her leave. Mu Yao bowed to Ning Shu, then ran back to her estate as if her butt was on fire. The beautiful men in the estate had made breakfast for her. If she returned late, they would throw a tantrum with her again. Mu Yao was different from the female chauvinism of this world. She was very good to the male servants in the inner courtyard. Mu Yao was a good woman. After breakfast, Ning Shu began to review the memorials. Although he had the original owner's memories, Ning Shu stared at these memorials for a long time before his mind wandered. Because these memorials were rambling for a long time, he did not know what to say. After a long string of words, he finally got to the main topic. Being an emperor was so difficult, because of the people below. Moreover, there was not a single punctuation mark in the entire memorial. When Ning Shu silently read a sentence, he was already on the verge of death. He completely did not know where to stop the sentence. What a headache! Ning Shu read 2 memorials with difficulty. His head was dizzy and he closed the memorial. The female official Ning Shu said, "Your Majesty, the Phoenix Empress heard that Your Majesty was not feeling well and made a tonic soup." Phoenix Empress. Ning Shu immediately felt as if he was struck by lightning. Previously, he only felt that this mission was simple. However, he neglected the fact that Mu Nishang was an emperor. She had 3 palaces and 6 courtyards in the imperial harem, and so many male concubines. Ning Shu felt dizzy. Ning Shu's mouth twitched. Did she have to pamper the men in the imperial harem? Her kidneys would be weak. The female official waited for Ning Shu's reply. Ning Shu rubbed his forehead and said, "Let the Phoenix Empress come in." A man wearing ivory white clothes walked in. This man was handsome, but his every movement was dignified and magnanimous. He carried a box of food in his hand and bowed to Ning Shu. He took out the tonic soup from the box and gently said to Ning Shu, "Chongqing greets Your Majesty." Mu Nishang's Phoenix Empress was called Lu Chongqing. He was the crown princess's father. Ning Shu recalled the plot. It seemed that he was banished to the cold palace by Mu Nishang. Mu Nishang did not even see him before she died. Lu Chongqing's eyebrows and eyes were like a painting. His hair was slightly loose, and there was a xiangfei bamboo flute at his waist. He was a very elegant man. "Thank you, Phoenix Empress." Ning Shu looked at the tonic soup and said, "I will drink it later." Lu Chongqing smiled faintly. He did not force Ning Shu to drink the tonic soup. He only said, "Your Majesty, drink it while it's hot. It won't taste good when it's cold." Ning Shu nodded and lowered his head to look at the memorial. Lu Chongqing bowed and turned to leave. The jade at his waist made a low sound when it collided with the xiangfei bamboo. Lu Chongqing was a very charming man. Ning Shu did not drink the tonic soup. Instead, he gave it to the female official beside him. This was because when he faced Lu Chongqing, there was an indescribable feeling in his heart. This feeling was not Ning Shu's, but the original owner's. Ning Shu did not know what this feeling contained, but it made Ning Shu wary. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.